Okay, roll sound, lock it up. Light on set, rolling. Jeremy speeding.
33, bro, take 3. Mark.
Okay, here we go. Same thing, Victoria. That was awesome. And action.
Well done, Ryan. Thank you, sir.
What's going on, everybody? My name's Dave McRae. Welcome to episode 288 of McRae Live. It's amazing. I've done 287 of these things. I am joined today, of course, by my partner in crime, my brother from another mother, my best friend of over 32 years, Bruce Dale. Bruce, how you doing?
I'm good. It's good to see you, man. This is and great to see everybody that's been tuning in. Just shout out to everybody that's here tuning in tonight, and to everybody else who worked on the film with us and everything. And we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But
should be a good show. Should be a good show tonight. I think it's going to be a good show.
Yeah.
A big thank you to everybody who has watched the movie so far. I think we're at about 8,000 views, which is fantastic. I'm hoping we can get to 10,000 by the end of the week, which would be great. And again, for us, Black Christmas, that's fantastic. You times that by ticket sales, and we've already made our budget back. So there you go.
It's a fun way to think of it too, right? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. A big shout out to everybody who has watched the movie, commented, all the reviews, Lee McCoy, Cody Leach, Wolfman's Got Nards, of course, Darren from the Slaughtered Lamb, and those reviews that I don't even know who they are. There's been reviews from channels that I have no idea who they are. So thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for reviewing and giving us your thoughts. And, even those that were said, I don't know, I think I might like the first one a bit better. And, I really like this one. That's all right, guys. That's okay. That's the world of art. Yeah. That's the world, not Art the Clown, although it was his world this past weekend. I will say that.
It's pretty amazing how that film just took off. And, again, well, I don't know as much about it as many others, but just kind of considering some of its of how, the first one took off and the way that the money was raised and it being an independent production.
Terrifier, you're saying. Oh, yeah.
Terrifying. Just, its trajectory and where it started and where it's come to today. Just that aspect in of itself as an independent filmmaker
impressive.
From that point of view. Yeah.
Look, despite what your feelings are on Terrifier, it's good for horror. It's good for independent horror. And so, kudos to them. Congratulations to the entire Terrifier team. And it's only they're going to continue to make more right through Halloween. So big shout out again to everybody who has watched the movie. And there's a few people that have commented that I really don't know where their heads were at when they were watching the movie. I categorically disagree with almost every single thing they said, and I don't think they were watching the movie we made, but that's, hey, you know what? Different strokes for different folks. But Bruce and I like it when people will comment and say like, I like this, but I don't know about this, or I kind of like this, I don't know, and they give good reasons for it, or how about this? We like that kind of stuff because this is art. That's the nature of the business, right? You can't do this kind of thing if you're going to get your knickers in a twist over everything. However, just like with chapter 1, Bruce and I wanted to jump on shortly after the release of chapter 2 and kind of just, spill the beans, talk about our process, talk about the things that you might have missed or that you might have noticed, but maybe are confused about, or maybe you have some questions or something like that. And we wanted to jump on and kind of just talk about everything. So major spoiler warning. We need to say that we can't talk about this movie without, spoiling it. So if you are saving It's Me, Billy chapter 2 for Christmas, which some of you are, I've seen people go, no, I'm going to wait for Christmas. I'm like, okay, but good luck avoiding spoilers. Cause I'm not going to, I hate to say it, but I'm not going to not talk about it until Christmas. I'm just saying. So, if you want to hold off, that's you, but come on. So we will be talking spoilers and just diving in and answering your questions. And maybe there'll be some things that we'll be able to give some insight on here and a perspective on that makes you go, okay, I kind of see it now. Or maybe we'll say all that and you'll go, no, I still fucking hated it. Okay, that's good too. That's totally fine too. That's totally fine too.
Fair enough.
But Bruce, you want to get us started, sort of talking about maybe our process? Like, let's start with, so the end of chapter 1, it's a massive cliffhanger. And again, that was not because we ran out of money. It was, well, we didn't have more money to continue it. That is true. But it wasn't like we just suddenly stopped because we ran out of money. That was planned that way.
Yeah.
And we were hoping that if chapter 1 took off and people really liked it, that people would come back to support chapter 2. So Bruce, talk to me and talk to the fans out there about where we were at the end of chapter 1.
Yeah. Well, we were very much excited and not 100% sure. Of course, we thought we could not have that scene at the end and just finish it with Emma in the back of the car, with when the blanket falls off, right? And just finish it there, and it would button it up to make it just a nice complete film. We talked about that. Yep. And then we thought, nah, let's do more. So
let's take a swing. Let's take a gigantic swing. And if we strike out, well, hell. You know what I mean?
And we thought, what, at least at minimum, people would have had a fun time, taken a great ride. Hopefully they're entertained. They really enjoyed it. And at the time that we had finished chapter 1, we had story notes, as we've said on some other interviews we've done. We had story notes ready to go. We knew a very general kind of high level sense of like where the story was going to go and what we might do. And we always knew, and we had kind of toyed, and David talked about this. David talked about this on another interview we did, where, we did entertain the idea of maybe trying to, have Olivia Hussey there at the end of chapter 1 and actually cut to show her step out from the darkness and end on that. But of course, it didn't work out, and there wasn't really the possibility to do it. Just the logistics and just some of I'll just say the logistics that are required.
And it was the pandemic as well, and travel and the whole thing.
It just wasn't possible. So we chose to end it where we did. And then with chapter 2, we were just, unanimous in our decision that we want to pick up exactly where we left off and just pick it up and continue forward. And again, as we keep saying, chapter 1 and chapter 2 are meant to be watched together. It is one story. We do have the intention that we're going to do, a Christmas cut or Billy cut or some other kind of, where we're going to take chapter 1 and 2 and put them together to make one complete presentation of the film as one complete story. And so, that's coming down the road a little bit, but we've got some perks that we got to get out to everybody first and take care of that stuff.
Yep.
And
we haven't forgotten about you. We haven't forgotten about you.
No, not at all. And we can probably give maybe a little bit of an update on that a little bit later in the stream.
Sure.
But yeah. And, for us in this one, we knew that there were a number of questions that we wanted to answer. We decided visually we wanted to go darker, both, in tone as well. So in terms of the characters, where we take you, we wanted a little bit more focus on the villains, which is why we spent time with Billy and Agnes in the beginning of the film, or toward the beginning. And, and just kind of continue that through. But then also for Sam's character, to see the finishing of the arc of that development of that character, where she starts in chapter 1 is a very different place from where she ends up at the end of chapter 2. And, as I was saying to Dave, like, this girl goes through it. Like, she does.
She does. We put Victoria through the ringer.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. And, I just think to myself, if I were in her shoes, that would be intense, that to actually have to go through all that. So
if that was actually happening, that would be really intense.
Yeah. So
for sure,
and really just to kind of finish off, it was a real collaborative effort. Again, we spent a lot of time talking with Greg Bennett, our director of photography, who shot both chapter 1 and chapter 2. Big shout out to him. He's tremendously talented. And we really think this is some of the best work that he's ever done. Like, really, I know it's biased for us to say it, but he's incredibly talented and just deserves those kudos. So we spent some quality time, talking with him about the look, the style, and he already had some very clear ideas in his mind once he heard us describe things of just exactly where he wanted to take it and how much darker he wanted to go. And again, we drew from visual references, because every filmmaker has visual references that they'll pull from when they're planning, when they're imagining, when they write, when they create things, whatever it might be. So, we explored some of that, and we landed where we did. So, I'll just finish by saying, again, big shout out to the entire cast and crew. Very, very talented. And very dedicated. Everybody really came together, and it was a pretty tight unit. I think, throughout, we had creative challenges that we had to overcome, in terms of logistics. Dave and I faced some challenges as producers, as you all know, leading up to the shoot, and we overcame. And I think that's one of the biggest things. This experience has reminded me that, you commit, you put in the work, and you follow through. And then you come out the other end, and you got to believe in it the whole way through and walk that journey. And then by the time you come out the other side, there's a lot of growth, a lot of development, a lot of learning, but it's cool, and just really great to be a part of it all, and share it with you, man. Like, it's just
Absolutely.
cool. Like, when I think about when we were kids and and here we are, like, doing the same thing that we were doing when we were in like grade 7. Like,
That's it. No, it's true. No, look, I echo everything you've said. And from that moment, when it came to chapter 2, one of the important things, or I'll just say this first, I'll preface what I'm about to say with this first. I think it's very important, as Bruce had mentioned, that this is really the last half of the story. So watching chapter 2 without watching part 1, or chapter 1, excuse me, and without, or having seen it but hadn't seen it in a long time, you're doing yourself a disservice. So I think I think chapter 2 will play best if you watch 1 and 2 together.
For sure.
And I think it will play even better if you watch the original Black Christmas and then chapter 1 and chapter 2, because then you get the complete story. Because when we entered the writer's room, we started hashing out ideas and really thinking about how can we connect everything? How can we connect everything? And one of the big things that we talked about was the ending of that first movie. Not our movie, the original Black Christmas. And for Black Christmas fans, if you remember at the end of that movie, we have the camera pulling back, the phone is ringing, and there's a police officer on the front porch. And I want to get into this a little bit because I want fans and people to understand how deep we think, how seriously we take this. We're working at a very high level. We have a lot of money. There's a lot of money at stake. And we need to be able to make sure that we are delivering. We know that not everybody's going to like what we do. That's just art, but we took it very seriously and went to these depths, these details we went to. And so when we were looking at the end of the original film, there's a police officer standing on the front porch smoking a cigarette. You can't see his face. There's no details of his face. I believe it's a male, but you don't see the face or anything like that. And the camera's just pulling back, the phones are ringing, and the credits are rolling. And we said, who is that?
Yeah.
Who is that guy? Who is that guy? Is he anybody? Is he anybody important? Could he be anybody important? Who is that guy? And it's exciting to dive in and think about it on those levels. So we first said, okay, you know what? Maybe he's this person. And we started drawing, we had notes and we're writing notes down. Maybe he's this person. What if the phone was ringing? So the phone is ringing. We don't know. Did he go back in to check on her? Did he go back in to answer the phone? Like he hears the phone because you kind of see him turn a little bit, I think, and so like what happened there? And so originally we were going to have that character in this movie, not the actor, because it's hard to pinpoint who that actor actually was. Probably just an extra, to be honest with you. But our thought was that we were going to reach out to Art Hindle. And we did reach out to Art Hindle, and he read the script, and Art Hindle said, this is a great script. He says, I think if Bob Clark were alive today, he would really like this.
Yeah, and that was pretty cool to hear. That was
pretty cool to hear.
Yeah.
But Art Hindle said, but for me at this point, I think I'm going to pass. Art Hindle's older as well, and he's can be picky and choosy with what he wants to do. But he said, you guys have done a really great job on the first one. It's really impressive. This is really good. Like, keep going. And so that was really cool to get that vote of confidence because he didn't have to say that. He could have just said, not for me, good luck. Right? I mean, he could have just said that. But to say what he said was really cool. And but that character was going to appear in the film. And that character was going to become Nancy's character. So who you see as Nancy, played by Lynn Griffin, that was actually, our plan was to have him, that was Art Hindle. And, excuse me, there were two options. No, forgive me. Let me back up. It wasn't going to be Art Hindle. Sorry. No. Art Hindle had already played. I'm back to front here, Bruce. I'm back to front.
Okay. Yeah.
Let me back up here. There's so many things. There's probably fans going, what? But Art Hindle was not a cop in the first movie. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm back to front. No,
okay, take
Art
two.
Hindle, take two. Boop.
Yeah.
No, Art was, see, I got all these notes they're all getting jumbled in my head. Art wasn't going to be the cop. Art was going to be somebody who spoke to that cop when he got back to the house. Excuse me. He wasn't going to be the cop.
Because at the time, he was Claire's boyfriend. And
he was Claire's boyfriend, Chris. Right.
Yeah.
I believe it was Chris, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, he wasn't going to be the cop. His character had left with Claire's dad, and Art's character was going to come back to the house and was going to meet this cop, and they were going to go in together, and they were going to come upon Billy standing over Jess, right? And shit was going to go down. And so we were going to use Art, who spent the next however many years, I believe that event inspired that character to become a police officer.
Yeah, that's what we talked about.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And therefore, at this stage of his life, he may have been retired as well. We always kind of imagine him like a George C. Scott from The Exorcist 3. Right. You know what I mean? Like very kind of like that. If you've seen The Exorcist 3, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so he became a cop. He wasn't a cop then. I'm getting my back to front here. It's been a while. Folks.
Well, and it makes sense with where we're going, like and Lynn's character and where she.
Right, exactly. Our goal was to always reach out to Lynn and have Lynn in the film as well, but she was going to be a smaller role. She was going to be Nancy's sister, always going to be, but she was have a sort of a smaller role, a supporting role to Art's main role there. And when Art turned us down, we said, well, hang on a sec. what if it's just Nancy? What if it's just Claire's sister, Nancy? And Claire's sister, Nancy, was already a cop at that time.
Yeah. She would have been like a rookie or something.
She would have been a rookie.
time.
She would have been
Yeah,
like
yeah.
21 or 22 or something like that, right? And she's the one that comes back and walks into the house. And because if you remember, one of the last shots we see in the original film is it's the POV. We can see the attic. We come out of the room where Jess is. We're moving down the hallway, all that kind of stuff, right? We go out, to the attic. We go outside, hear the phone ring. And so Billy, we presume he's coming down from the attic now, and he's going to go over to Jess. And if you're a Black Christmas purist, there's a lot of Black Christmas purists that don't like what we've done and think, no, Jess Bradford died. She died. I don't want to watch your movies. Fuck you. You guys suck. You pieces of shit.
It's okay. You don't have to watch the movie.
It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to watch the movie. Life
It's
will go
okay.
on,
I'm not
folks.
offended. We're not offended.
We're not offended. We're not offended. But it's cool because we had imagined, well, what happened if you went back in? Whether it was Claire's boyfriend and the cop, or whether it was Nancy as a young cop and the cop, like what happened?
Yeah.
And so we imagined that that's what happened, that Nancy went back in to check on Jess. And when she went upstairs, she opened the door, she surprised him. And Billy was standing over her and he's like, what? She's like, what the fuck? And turns around, all that kind of stuff. So I say that just to let you know how important it was for us to connect our films to the original in a way that felt organic, authentic, believable, probable, possible, something that wasn't like, seriously, no, something that felt totally believable.
Continuation of,
Yeah, exactly. Those are the depths that we went with the writing in everything as well. Right from the symbolism, right down to the cinema, the cinematic language to certain scenes and shots and things like that. It may go, if you're not a Black Christmas fan, you don't really care about Black Christmas, then there will be, and I don't say this in a pretentious way, there will be things that will go over your head because you're not a fan of the original. Maybe you've never seen the original. Maybe you've seen it once. So you're watching our movies and there's certain things that maybe seem weird or that kind of go over your head or whatever the case is because they're deep cuts. Right. And they're for the fans that truly understand and get it. And again, I don't mean that in a pretentious way. I mean that in any kind of way.
We made the movie that way as well. Like, cause thinking about, cause that's just part of what you do with, well, I would say any kind of film too. Like even if we were actually hired to do a Marvel film or something, it's like, you want to stay true and have the Easter eggs and, pull from the lore that's already there and build on it. I think in a tasteful way, which we've talked about. And to Dave's point, just looking for those jump points with the characters. But then the challenge also comes in when we say, okay, well, we don't have the budget to do a period piece and set this back in 1978, let's pretend, or 76 or wherever. So it has to be shot present day. Okay. So then that puts us approximately 50 years into the future. Okay. So then we started to talk about, well, what's happened with these characters? Where would these characters be at this point in their lives 50 years later? Well, entire careers have been worked and completed. And some of these characters like Nancy have retired. And so, when we see her in our film, she's a retired detective, but still, hasn't let go of the job, right? You live it, you breathe it with those types of careers.
It's like wrestlers.
So, and then also same thing with Billy, same thing with Agnes, to show the degradation of this person's mental state as they've gone on throughout the years. And then both of them, and reaching this point where their characters are very solid in who they are and where they are at this point in the journey, and we find that, and as a writer, that stuff is a lot of fun because you're doing a lot of imagining, a lot of creating, kind of thinking things through, and it's just a fun place to be and sort of play in that sandbox with those ideas, and then watch it crystallize and become something very tangible, something very solid. So, and then we landed where we did, and in chapter 1, we wanted to show, like, say, the attic scene where you really see how much and how far Billy has gone. And then we show it again in this film, but then take you a little bit further. And, you know, to kind of talk a bit about the dining room scene with Billy, because it feels like just sort of a natural segue into it, is that when in chapter 1, we wanted to make sure that we got those phone calls in there. And you hear the tirade from Billy, and you hear the voices, and because it's the signature characteristic element of, you know, what makes Black Christmas, among a few other things. Yeah. So then when we start to write chapter 2, we realize, well, as the story is unfolding, and just by virtue of where the characters are, like Sam's trapped in the basement, Jess is trapped in the basement, you know, Dad's on his way, the other friends are dead. Like, if Billy's going to call somebody, there's nobody left to call. Like, you know, it's kind of like, who's he calling right now? You know, so we had to get the story to a point where he could call again. And that's why you see that phone call at the end of the movie. But then, you know, Dave and I were talking about, how do we still convey that sense of the multiple personalities, these multiple voices, and at least do our best to represent at minimum a fraction of it, because there's a lot more voices that you hear on the phone than, you know, what's represented at the table visually. But then auditory, like audio wise, we hear all of those voices kick in as the scene continues. And we thought that would be just a very haunting, dark, and sort of deeper approach for how we want to illustrate Billy and show where he's at, take you into the mind, really go into, you know, the villain's headspace. That's it. And explore that. And yeah, we wanted to make that scary, make that, you know, a little frightening, disturbing, you know.
And if I could just, you know, piggyback on what you said there, you know, one of the criticisms we received on chapter 1 was that we showed Billy too much. And I you know, I said it then, and I will say it now, and certainly you don't have to agree with me, but I can defend the creative decision. And, you know, it's important that people understand that this is a story set 50 years later. So when you're writing a story that you are connecting to a piece that is 50 years ago, and you have the same character, a character like Billy, who presumably would not have received any sort of mental health help, presumably would not have received any kind of, you know, treatment or anything like that. If he was like he was in 1974, the questions we asked ourselves on chapter 1 and chapter 2, of course, is where would he be today? Where would that character be today without that help? So right from the way he looks, right from the voices overlapping on the phone. Some people have said, you know, oh, but that's not what he does. You know, you shouldn't overlap on the phone. No. Yes, we should. No, but it's the reason why the voices overlap is because this is the cognitive mental decay of where this character is today. Right? So it's a representation of that degradation, of that just the fall of where he is, and all these voices and all these new personalities that he may have gained over the years, right? These are the things we're thinking about. It's not a technical error, or it's not something that we didn't think about. It's not overlapped gratuitously, but there's sometimes you'll hear like a voice overlap another, and it's eerie, it's weird. It's like, how's he doing that? Is he a ventriloquist or something? How does he, you know, it's very eerie. And that was exciting to us because we would think about those things, about where would this character be today? You know, he's not going down the street to get a haircut. He didn't receive that help, you know? And so these are important things that you think about when you want to move a character forward, but also keep the anonymity and the ambiguity there. Because, you know, how do you develop a character like Billy, who must remain largely ambiguous because of the mystique, but you don't want to just do the same thing over and over again. You want to show the progression of where is he today. If we had done the exact same thing that they did in 1974, that's not interesting to us. It might have pleased some fans and it would have been cool, but nothing's changed. There's no progression. It's not, you know, what, you know, it doesn't move the character forward. Yeah, it's just a rehash. So it's about that balance of figuring out how to keep the mystique there, but still pushing him forward. And the best way we figured out to do that was to show him show his body, because in the original film, you don't really see his body. It's all POV, silhouettes, all that kind of stuff. And that works great for the introduction of the character. That works great for that first installment. And maybe that's the only installment you want, and that's fair. That's totally fair. But when we're going to do a sequel, we needed to figure out a way to preserve that, but give you something a little more. So now we're showing you from a different perspective. So in chapter 1, you see the freak out through the POV, and he kicks over, the rocking horse and all that. In the original film, you see that. In chapter 1, you see it from an objective point of view. You actually see his body in dimly lit light, kicking over boxes and things like that. You don't see his face, but that's still the progression of the character. And to Bruce's point, we can't do the phone calls anymore. So now we're moving into this wonderful scene that that Bruce spearheaded, and it just turned out so great. It was such a great scene. It was an amalgamation of ideas from both of us to try and get to that point. I knew I wanted him at the head of the table, and I wanted to push in across the head of the table like we did with Sam. And I knew I wanted to have a tirade, and Bruce said, well, why don't we have a tirade from the multiple personalities around the table? And I said, that's just brilliant. That is your phone call in chapter 2. Anyways, I don't mean to babble on there, but I just think it's important that fans and viewers understand that these are the depths we go when we're thinking about character and story, that no decisions are arbitrarily made. That doesn't mean you're going to agree with us, but we can defend our decisions because we did go to those lengths to try and have that balance, push things forward, but preserve the Black Christmas mystique.
And, in saying that, it's a scale, right? I think of it as a scale as a filmmaker. Like, to do that scene with Billy around the dining room table was a creative risk.
It was.
And, we did our best to make it tasteful, to be, again, responsible with the IP. Like Dave said, present something that we thought people might genuinely get excited about and feel scared. And and there's been a lot of great compliments online, which we're very appreciative for, because it was a big creative risk. We weren't sure how people were going to react to it, if they'd like it or not. And, but we had a lot of fun creating it. And for me, it was one of my favorite scenes to film. And getting to work with Brian Charles Peter, who plays Billy, and he's Billy in chapter 1 and 2 on screen. And of course, as you all know, Dave does a lot of the voice work as well. In this chapter, we actually had a little bit more of Brian's natural voice in that scene as well.
A lot of it.
And then
the laughing, the grunting, and then mixed with mine when things began to ramp up. Yeah.
And when cutting that scene together, it was it was, again, it was kind of a challenge. I was saying to Dave, it was it was very nuanced. You had to, it was like a piece of art that you had to just very carefully craft together, because just the slightest change in a piece of music, or a sound effect, or a shot's just a few frames too short or too long. Sometimes in movie making, it's not quite as detailed, and you can get away with a little bit more. But then there's some scenes, there's some moments that you craft that it's got to be very precise for you to sell it, because otherwise, if it's off by just a beat, it's off.
Off, and it throws the whole thing off.
Yeah. And a great example was, there was one, and one of the challenging parts about editing that scene was getting the pacing right, because, at first, when cutting it together, there was a passage in the middle where we felt things kind of slowed a little bit, and then it picked up, and it was great at the front end, but then the middle, so we trimmed that down, cut some stuff out, tightened it up, and then it just kept working it, right? Just sort of like a sculpture where you just keep, developing the form and chipping pieces away and shaping it. And then we finally got to a point where I remember saying to Dave, I want to take one more look at it, because the sound and the picture isn't like it. Something, the pacing's not quite matched. And then
it was so close. It was so close. It was just something that was off.
Yeah. And so there was one sound effect in particular, like one piece of voice work. And I shifted that to the end of the scene, and it made all the difference. And that was the only thing that shifted. And then suddenly, okay, the pacing was great. And it was that one piece that I discovered it was starting to build the intensity a little too fast. So that it made the sound start to outpace the visuals. And then by the time we got to the end, but shifting it to the end, it actually helped. And then it created a more gradual transition. Audio and video were both now in sync. And then we got to the end and boom, we're there. And it was just.
No, it was great. It's such a great scene. And like I said, I mean, I'm so proud of it. It was such a great idea. Cause I said, I mean, props to you for taking it that one step further and saying, I like where you're going with this, Dave, but how about, cause I was always imagining sort of maybe him at the table, but different camera angles of his tirade.
Right.
And I think that sparked, an idea in you where you're like, well, why don't we have him sitting around the table?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And kind of go in, make it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember when you said that, I was like, yeah, that's it. That's a really great idea.
Yeah.
And so, it's such a great scene. And again, because it is chapter 2 and it is a separate short film at the moment, but it is really just the last half of the movie. So you've already had your phone calls, right? Because you had them in chapter 1. So to your point, we had to figure out a way to get some phone calls into chapter 2, but the story didn't really, unless there was a phone in the basement, but then that would have been a little too much like The Black Phone. And so, we didn't really feel, how are we going to do this? And that's what it became. That dining room table scene into the psyche of Billy, into his subconscious, into his psychosis, into his, the degradation of his mental state. That is your phone call scene, for all intents and purposes in chapter 2. And what a terrific way. And Brian was just tremendous.
Yeah. Shout out to Brian.
In that. It was just awesome.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, sorry, go ahead.
Now I was just going to mention the last piece too with, Dave had said at the beginning, I want to have some mirroring with the shots.
Thank you for bringing that up. God,
yeah. Because, if and there's some people that mentioned it in some of the comments somewhere at some point where they recognize in chapter 1, you've got, the 3 girls sitting around the table.
Yeah.
And it's Victoria right at the head of the table and then the 2 friends on either side. Well, you'll notice in this one, in chapter 2, we've got Billy positioned in the exact same seats. Right. And it's intended it's like that on purpose to mirror, right? And to just take us back to a familiar place, but now showing it to you from a completely different perspective and how it's gone from one extreme to another. That was also, we did that also through the way that we opened the scene with the shot, because, we track from left to right when we introduce the girls in chapter 1 as they're all sitting down with their dinners at the table and everything. And then we go right to left when we're introducing Billy in chapter 2. That's right. So again, it's playing this notion of opposites, which, then lends itself into some subtext. Again, to Dave's point, not every scene goes quite to that depth, but I think that scene in particular is just a great sort of case study, like kind of breaking it down, but again, to share with all of you, just kind of like what we're thinking. And like, it's just a great example out of the 2 films where we went to that extent, thought to that depth, and crafted what you see today.
Exactly. No, look, it's important to us that it's a short film. And so, you only have so much time to develop and to sort of, add the nuances and, the language and the subtext that you feel is going to enrich the story on a deeper subliminal level. And, to your point, that was really important to me because I knew we tracked left to right. I wanted to go right to left when we open, so we can. It's that mirroring. It's again. I couldn't have said it any better. It's that opposite. The darkness, because, the girls around the table in the warm tungsten sort of, light, and Billy's in the darkness, and he's at the head of the table. and then we track across the table. And all of that is, if you're paying it, especially if you watch chapter 1 and 2 back to back, you'll notice it a lot more.
Yeah.
You'll notice a lot more because you're fresh off of chapter 1. But all of that, those are deliberate, creative decisions to add that, cinematic language, to add that subtext for the astute viewer who's going to pick up on that and go, oh, I think I know what they're doing here. This is really eerie. Now, for a lot of fans, for a lot of people, it's going to go right over your head, because a lot of people watch movies and they don't think that deeply. And maybe they don't want to think that, deeply, but it's there. If you know what to look for, it's there. And these are the depths that Bruce and I are always thinking on. Even with these movies, we are thinking that way, because if you know what to look for and you're paying attention, cinematic language can make an audience feel a certain way, even when they're not quite sure why they're feeling that way. There's something about this. I feel like there's something here that's important.
Yeah.
This is interesting. This is important. Scorsese does that all the time. He does it beautifully.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not saying we're Scorsese, folks. Okay, it's
No.
You don't have to comment below. Dave thinks he's Scorsese. No, that's not what I said. That's not what I. Speaking of nuance, no, but I just wanted to sort of put an exclamation point on that, because you're bang on. I mean, that was there's so much subtext at that scene. It's oozing with it, and it's important. It's important to the character. So let's talk about Sam.
Yeah.
Victoria Miro. And obviously, shout out to the lovely and talented Victoria Miro, who's just an absolute blast to work with. I can't wait to work with her again. And so this was a fun one, because we knew that we wanted Sam to be, when you watch Sam in the first movie, right? One of the I won't say complaints, I'll say critiques that we got. Well, Sam feels a little melancholy. She feels a little emo in that movie. It's just kind of down. And I was like, well, yeah, she's sad. She's lost her mother. She thinks she's lost her grandmother. She's
pretty upset.
Sad. Yeah. She's pretty upset. And so she's dealing with a lot, and she's going through a lot. And that line on the front porch when she says, I really got to start taking care of myself, Emma. I don't want to end up like her. That right there, just, you don't need to know more. I mean, maybe you want to know more, but that line right there tells you everything you need to know. Oh, there's something going on in her life.
It's
like
enough.
She's going through something. Maybe she's been drinking a little more than she should be. Maybe she's, who knows, right? Like, I mean, there's things going on in her life that she's like, maybe she's not eating well. Maybe she's not sleeping well. She's, I don't know, she's been calling in sick on some work days, and she's not really sick. She's just, depressed. Who knows? There's things going on in her life when she says, I really got to start taking care of myself, because I don't want to end up like her. And when she said, and then Emma says, you're not like her, you're strong like your grandma. And that comes back to have significant meaning in chapter 2. And we knew that you were always going to see that sort of that transition, that realization that she does have that strength. And a really cool way of that subconscious reminder within her was through the voices of her friends beyond the grave, if you will. And it's not necessarily meant to be taken literally, like they are force ghosts.
No, not at all.
Like they're actually in the room, like the black phone. Get up.
No,
now. It's not like that. It's, again, that's the cinematic language, right?
Yeah.
That's
probably
the
interpret
symbolism.
it like it's memory. It's her recalling those conversations with her friends.
That's
and,
right.
And lines like the porch scene, lines like, I have to take care of myself, Emma, I don't want to end up like her.
Yeah.
You have to remember too, like when you're writing dialogue for a character, you want to try to make it seem real. And how do you make it real? Well, you got to think about how people actually talk. So often a lot of people, they will make statements that are not necessarily true about themselves. So really it speaks to their own self-perception. And so the character of Sam might be thinking, I'm falling off, right? I'm not who
I'm not going to work. I'm not eating well, whatever it is.
Yeah. When in fact, someone like Emma or Justine with a more objective point of view on the outside looking in might look at her and go, well, no, you're just fine. And like, how many times have we all had a friend that, said something like that? And it's like, nah, man, like you're great. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's nothing, I can understand how you might think that, but maybe I would too, if I were in your shoes, but that's not That's not what we see. That's not what the rest of the world sees when we look at you, and you're fine. And some people just need that. Sometimes you just need that reminder that things are okay, and that no, you're good, and things are cool, and so like writing that line again, it's one of those that was very much the intention when writing that, and again, there's a few passages throughout that scene where again, it's, how's the character perceiving themselves, and that gives you lots for the actors to work with too, because those are the kinds of things that actors are going to be looking for when they're reading a script and trying to think about their character and break things down. And, that gives them some meat on the bones, as you'd say, Dave, where it's like they've got something to kind of work with, and then they can flesh that out and start to build, even though the audience might not know it, that's okay. Right. But as directors and as the actor, we certainly talk about that. That's but it's not always necessary for it to come on screen, but
that's right.
Guaranteed you as an audience accept it because you have a sense. People don't just share everything like this big exposition spill. They just talk in fragments. They share fragments of things, and you're left to piece it together if you don't know them, and it's, but then that's where the challenge of writing comes in, because you want to make it real, put all those bits in, but then make it so that it doesn't seem like you're doing that, and they make it seem like it's a thing. So
it was,
hopefully that makes sense. Yeah.
Oh, it does to me. It does to me. No, it's true. It's about that balance. And I knew going into both of these movies that I didn't want to spoon feed anybody. I did. Start streaming.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
Wait. Okay.
Standing by.
Hang on. I think we're back. 1 second. I noticed that I think we're back. Are we back? We should be back.
Was there a technical error? Like it's
there was a bit of a technical. There was a technical thing. But hang on a sec. There was a technical thing. Wait. Yeah. No, we're back now. We're back. Okay. Yeah. There was a little technical.
Okay. All right. We're
glitch.
Back, everybody.
there was a technical glitch, but we're back. We're back. But for some reason, I don't know why OBS is. Yeah, the kilobytes per second is wonky at the moment. But we'll keep going. Come on. Don't be a dink. Okay. Anyway, we'll keep going. All
right.
Yeah,
the hamster is tired inside,
The hamster, for whatever reason, is tired. I don't know why it's doing that. It's weird. I'll keep monitoring it. So how is it for you guys?
More wheels.
Yeah. People are saying, it's buffering still, people are saying.
How is it for those in the chat?
People are saying it's still buffering.
Wow. Okay.
I can snip this out later as well.
Okay.
Let me just... Okay, let's see if this has any effect. See, we're getting back online here.
Okay.
1 second.
I just let everybody know in the chat, so if you can hear us, see us, we're just working on it. Well, Dave is, like, he's the mastermind here. He's got it all.
Yeah, okay. I think we're back. We're back. I think we're back. We're back. Oh, no, it's still doing it. It's kind of funky and weird. I don't know why that is. Very strange. Okay. Well, hang on. I'm just
Should we like hop off and then
tell people? On? Yeah, tell people to 1 second here. In the chat, if people can hear me, the chat still buffering. No, I know. Hang on.
Mm-hmm.
Hang tight, folks. Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
Don't go anywhere. We'll see. Are we back? Should be back. I think we are back.
Okay.
I think.
I see on air.
Hello. Test. Can everybody hear us? I think we are. Oh, that's me on my phone.
There's some echo.
That was me on my phone.
Oh, okay.
Hello. Test. We're back. You're back, says Oliver Mercer. Great. All right, good. We're back. Let's jump into it before we crash again.
Okay, great.
Hopefully, more people will start to come back. Where were we when we were? We were talking. I know where we were. We were talking about Sam, and we had started to talk about Sam and the.
Her journey.
The
that's dialogue. Right. We were kind of, so I was getting into the weeds there with a lot of the
it's
writing
great stuff.
I don't know if folks are interested in that, and if people are like, hey, yeah, no, that's cool. We can.
But you know what? But
on that.
it doesn't matter if they're interested in it or not. This is this is our process. This is what it takes to make a movie, and these are the things that people don't see, that don't appreciate. Not everybody, but that a lot of people don't understand, don't appreciate what actually goes into making this a reality. It's not like we're sitting around, sitting on our thumbs, farting, thinking, let's just do this, and this.
Yeah.
I mean, we take it really, that doesn't mean that you're going to agree with the creative decisions we make, but no decision we make is arbitrary.
No.
There's nothing, we can defend every single decision we've made. That doesn't mean that you're going to agree with it or like it, but we can defend it. Like, there's never going to be a time where you ask about something and Bruce and I go, I don't know, like, I guess we never thought of that. No, it's never like that. That doesn't mean the answer we give you, you're going to go, oh, okay, I agree with that. No, you might still go, I don't know, guys, I don't like that. And that's totally fair. But we can defend every decision we make because we think to those depths, because we really care about the story and we care about doing something that's really cool and something that makes sense. Now, in talking about Sam and having those voices beyond the grave, her friends Emma and Justine are the ones that wake her up from her being unconscious. Now, again, as I said before we crashed, that's not meant to be taken literally. Nobody has said that, by the way, and all the reviews or even the critiques. Nobody has said that. Oh, I guess they're because I think it's clear, hopefully, that of what's happening, but it's deep within her. And what's really cool too is. And we talked about this too, from a certain point of view. I mean, Sam is in the basement. That's where she's being kept. And she's rising from the basement. And her friends were murdered and disposed of in a burn barrel. And so these voices that are speaking to her from the ashes, right, in some ways, is the catalyst that is allowing Sam to rise. And what rises from the ashes? A phoenix, right? You know what I mean? And it's that rising from the ashes, rising from that fire. Now, you aren't necessarily meant to pick up on that consciously as you watch it, right? But these are the depths and the things that we think about as we're writing, so we can put these details in, these layers in, so that the more times you watch it, you might go, oh, you know what? This is interesting, actually. Look at this. Yeah. I wonder, and that's effective cinematic language and symbolism. And those are the depths we went to. I remember saying, like, the voices are speaking to her beyond the grave, so to speak, but her bodies were burned. They're speaking, or their bodies were burned. They're speaking to her from the ashes, from the fire. And they're in her subconscious, in her memories, which is what is forcing her to wake up. You know what I mean? And she's in the basement. She's not on the top floor. She's not on the second floor, or the top floor would be the attic. She's not on the third floor or the second floor. She's in the basement. And it's that Phoenix type of character that is rising from the ashes, symbolically, because of her friends helping her, it's almost like if you imagined it literally, her friends would be soot and ash lifting her up. Do you know what I mean? So if you look at it from that perspective, and it was really cool to think to those depths and to think to that degree, because, these are the depths we think, and of course, to the trajectory for Sam to discover that strength. You're not like her. You're strong, like your grandma. And now we're seeing her realize that within herself, and she's scared. She's not your typical final girl in the sense of that she's like a warrior or something like that. She's not, I wouldn't say that she's like total badass and she's like Sarah Connor or something like that. She's not that kind of girl. No. She's shy. She's timid. She's just a normal kind of everyday girl next door girl. And she's had to go within her and find a certain level of strength to be able to fight back. And it was really cool to be able to see that arc for where she was in the first movie all the way to the end of the second movie. It was very, very cool.
Yeah, yeah. And just kind of coming back to your other point, I don't know how many people, who are watching us now, or even folks that might watch this after, but I don't know if any of you make movies as well. I know there's some people definitely have a strong interest in it, but I'd be curious to know if anybody makes movies themselves, considers themselves an independent filmmaker, and what kind of projects have you done? What kind of stuff have you been working on? Or maybe you've got like a script or a story idea that you've been sort of toying with or whatnot. If so, hopefully all the stuff that we're sharing is helpful to you, because it's the kind of stuff that you want to think about, right? If you're making your own movie, and you could do all kinds of things with it. Yeah,
That's
anyway.
it. No, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. And again, not every story and not every film requires that depth. We're not here to say that if you're doing a Jim Carrey comedy, you've got to have all these layers and symbolism. But with something like a sequel to Black Christmas and where we were going with the story, it was important to us to be able to noodle the story with those types of things, because it can be. You can affect your audience in a way that they don't even realize consciously.
That's it. Yeah.
And that's what's really cool. And that's what's really important. So again, there's probably a lot of things that the average viewer might have missed, but we go to those depths and, we think like that. Again, I do want to say, because I have seen a few people say that there was a few homages to the 2006 Black Christmas. There is not any homage to the 2006 Black Christmas. There's no homage to the 19 film, obviously. I don't know what specifically they were referring to in this sense. I do know that when we showcased Chapter 1 a few years ago, there were a number of people that thought the existence of Agnes was a nod to the 2006 film, and Agnes existed before that.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's fine. I mean, if that's what you feel, that's fine. But the character of Agnes was introduced in the first movie in terms of a name on the phone. Bob Clark had said he had always imagined them as a potential brother and sister, and there might have been some sort of abuse happening there. The '06 movie is the one that revealed it. I think there's probably a lot of people that have seen the '06 movie that have never seen the original, and so therefore their only association with Agnes is from that movie. So they make that connection and association, and it makes sense that you would if you've never seen the first one.
Yeah.
But Bruce and I made it very clear when we were starting these two films to not have any association with the '06 movie at all. There was nothing. It just wouldn't make any sense narratively.
No.
We're not one of those people that are just going to tip our head. Oh, here's a little. No. It's unnecessary.
We only did that with the first movie. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And and it makes sense. Like sometimes people get what's it called? They have the same source material, right? They have the same jump point, and so it's natural to expect that two filmmakers might come up with similar story elements or characters and make the choice to develop things down their own paths, but they could end up making similar creative choices in some ways. And I've seen that kind of thing happen a lot too. So it makes sense. It makes sense. And, hey, we are dealing with the same intellectual property. So
for sure. Yeah. No, 100%. Oh yeah. No, I wasn't upset about it. I just wanted to make sure that people understood sort of where we were coming from in that regard. Now with Lynn Griffin and Glenn Michael Grant, who play Detective Mike Henney and Nancy, this was a really important scene for us. And one of my favorite scenes in the film. I remember when we were thinking about it and constructing it, we wanted a dimly lit police office that was on a cold Christmas day. He's like the only guy in there because everybody else is at home. Yeah. And he's in there kind of catching up on some work. And this was a terrific scene to shoot. And this was, again, what you deal with when you have a short film. Obviously, we would have fleshed things out even more and maybe shown some things, but we're working at a very high level in terms of the film, and so the money only goes so far, and so we found that this was a fun way, especially to put it in the hands of a Black Christmas alumni. to be able to deliver the exposition about some of those questions, those lingering questions that maybe Black Christmas fans have had. But it was also important for us to walk that line of not giving too much. We don't want to reveal too much, right? We don't want to reveal it all, because then we would have been criticized for that too. I mean, you're damned if you do, if you're damned if you don't. You know,
It's
a lot
true.
of people.
It's true.
And so we wanted to just kind of give you enough so you can fill in those gaps. You can start those conversations, have those conversations in the chat room. You know, think about it. You know, wonder what that means. You know, what happened there. But give you enough so the story makes sense, and you can kind of imagine it in your own mind. And it was Lynn was such a trooper and did such an amazing job at delivering, because it was dialogue heavy in the sense of there were a couple of sort of, you know, long monologues there for her character, and she just knocked it out of the park. I mean, they both did, but I mean, like, you know, their chemistry was fantastic, and it was such a cool way to hand that information off into the hands of a Black Christmas alumni to be able to relay that as if she's the sister of her character from the 74 film. You know what I mean? And you get some juicy details in there. I mean, what do we find out? Well, we find out that this is Nancy's sister, this is Claire's sister, right? We find that out. We find out that she showed up that night and saw Lieutenant Fuller taking their dad to the hospital. Because remember, at the end of the first movie, they leave, right? So we're
not sure where they went.
Not sure where they went.
Yeah.
We know that Nancy is the one that stumbled upon Billy, you know, over Jess's bed, right? And scared. If she hadn't done that, Jess may have died, right?
It justifies how she lived, because that whole bit about the phone ringing after every death, that's how we chose to justify how she lived. So Nancy kind of basically inadvertently intervened. Like, she didn't even know, right? Yeah,
exactly. So the phone is ringing. Billy is, you know, he's there. Like and you know, some people have asked, well, what's the phone call then? Who's the phone call? I don't know. Who knows who it was? Maybe it was Agnes. Maybe it was Agnes that was calling, and we'll get to that here in a second. But it justifies your point that you know, she stumbled upon him and interrupted that process, and he escaped. And then, of course, she talks about how the police found some guy naked in 1979, standing on a country road covered in blood. You know what I mean? Nobody knew who he was. His picture was on the news for weeks and weeks. Nobody came forward. He wound up in a mental asylum, and, you know, whatever. And so clearly Billy's string of murders had continued. So there may have been a string of unsolved, you know, murders for years. And this is in the era of, you know, your John Wayne Gacy's and your Ted Bundys. I mean, this is like, you know, who knows what was going on through that time. But Billy was inevitably caught, and 5 years later, and put into a mental asylum, into Coldwater Psychiatric, where he spent 45 years. And, you know, he just was, that's where he was. And then, of course, we find out that, you know, Agnes, well, I don't know. It's up for, we find out that Agnes was the one that obviously got him out, because she worked there and was keeping an eye on him, so to speak, right? You know what I mean?
And that's the hospital she's working at, when she says to the girls, "Oh, I'm working a double over at the hospital."
That's right.
That's
right.
That's where she's headed. Yeah.
That's where she's headed. And obviously through this journey of Nancy speaking to Jess about, I think something's not right. I remember seeing a guy standing over you, you know what I mean? And he was about to kill you. But for years, Jess was convinced that it was Peter. And then something tipped her off. You know what I mean? There's something wasn't, and she started, because she was she was a true crime author. You know what I mean? And she had written all these books, her most famous being, of course, the Belmont Murders, and which was her first one. And then through looking into more and more of this history and this past, and certainly with Nancy, you know, here and, you know, like this, she actually, it did have an effect on her. Nancy seems to think it didn't. Nancy thinks that Jess was ignoring her, when really Jess was protecting her.
Right.
Right. It did have an effect on her, and it did force her to look into it, especially with the 50th year anniversary, right there. And it did force her to get back into the swing of things. And that's when she started writing the book, Peter's Innocence, and all this kind of stuff. And in the first movie, there's that track across the table in the attic where you see the manuscript, you see Peter's Innocence sitting there.
Yeah.
Right. So, again, we go to these depths. It's all connected, in a lot of ways, but we don't spill it out for you. We don't have a moment where we say, this is what it's. We don't have a Scooby-Doo moment, a Scream moment, where the mask comes off and then the villain takes 10 minutes to tell you why they're so evil. We wanted to sort of play it more nuanced and more psychological in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's show don't tell, right? Which is that's such a key, like, foundational, like, writing concept, right? It's a visual medium. It's an auditory medium. You want to, like, there's some films where there's barely any talking. And so you have to ask yourself, well, how do I understand what's going on? How am I able to piece it together? Well, it's because of everything that, that Dave's talking about. It's, so, and again, it's all about choosing which parts of the story you want to tell and you feel are necessary to flesh out. To what extent do you want to flesh it out? Because not everything needs to be told to the same depth. Some people might go, well, I really would love to know that. And that's fair.
Yes.
But it may not. Every filmmaker asks themselves when they're writing and when they're cutting the film together, there's a cutoff point where you go, no, that's sufficient to tell the story. Anything more might be extra, and we don't need that, and it kind of ruins the pacing of the movie, or it drags it down somehow, or whatever, or it feels like this big exposition dump, and it's like, again, you're ruining the pacing of the story, ruining the momentum, and that's something that you want to try to avoid. So it's a whole thing, right? But it's fun. Like that's the fun part is
it's fun and
crafting this puzzle.
And that's what we wanted people. Now, one of the things well, hang on. I'm getting too far ahead of myself here. I'm like, Bruce, I have too many thoughts in my head all at once. But I was just going to say that it's about, revealing enough where obviously the story makes sense, but it was vitally important to us that we continue to preserve the mystery and the ambiguity of Billy and Agnes. And if we revealed all, it was a tell all, in the sense of that all is revealed and it's all on the table and theirs is, there it is, there is it all. Number one, we would have been criticized for that. And number two, I don't think it's necessary. No. And so one of the things that I see, and even Cody Leach had said this, but at the same time, Cody Leach is obviously a very astute movie reviewer, and said, but I get why they didn't. He says, I understand why they didn't. And I get that, which is, of course, at the end of the movie, and some people may feel this same way, they want to know what's on the drive. What's on that drive? What is this evidence? What is this evidence, this hot evidence that Jess has been collecting over the last, 6 to 8 months or however, long it is, that she's shunned Nancy to the point where Nancy thinks that Jess is, whatever the case is, and it's not. I mean, she was just trying to protect her, right? Until it got to the point where she completely disappeared at all, right? And then Nancy knew something's not right here, right? Because up to that moment, Jess was being dismissive with her. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden Jess disappears because she got too close, right? She got too close. And then shit hit the fan. And so what is that evidence? What did she find out about that night? She says, it's the USB drive with with everything I discovered about that night. Oh, what is it? I need to know. But you don't need to know. You might want to know. But you don't need to know. And it was important to us to not reveal that, because that would have revealed too much. That would have revealed too much about who Billy, because in our minds as writers and directors, what is on that USB drive is, as Jess says in the study, it's everything. Right. She says it, right? When Nancy takes into her hand, she goes, what's this? And Jess says, it's everything. And we didn't want to reveal everything. We just wanted you to know it was everything. So you can sit there and go, oh shit. So on that drive is Billy's, maybe his name, maybe his real name, maybe his name's not even Billy. I don't know. Yeah. Right. It's their relationship, his face, his photos, where he comes from, his upbringing, where he went to school, how many people he's murdered,
his hospital records,
his, that night, where he was that night in 74, and how he can connect this and do this and all this, and Agnes and how she's in on it, and here's the evidence, and this is what I was writing, and Peter really wasn't there because he was here, and there's his alibi. It's everything. And so that's all you need to know. Because if we reveal that to you, now you can say, well, you don't need to reveal everything. You can reveal just a snippet. But we wanted to just let you know that's it. And by ending the movie that way and knowing that it's everything, you now know that as soon as it winds up in Henny's hand, and Nancy says, we're finally going to solve that cold case once and for all. Mm-hmm. So now you know as an audience, you can say, okay, so when the credits roll and the movie ends, if it was real life and life continued, it would have gone to the police station. They would have downloaded everything. There would have been a big news conference or a report, breaking news.
And maybe a trial, and who knows? Yeah.
Who knows what would have happened? You know what I'm saying? All that stuff. And then Peter's innocence would have been released, and Jess would have been on talk shows again, and, clearing Peter's name, and, all this kind of stuff. That's what would have happened, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously. And so, but you don't need to see that. Because seeing all that and revealing all that destroys the mystique of these characters. And we wanted to preserve that ambiguity. So you can just imagine it in, again, that theater of the mind, where you sit there and you go, wow, it's everything. That drive, this drive right here, I have it right here. This little sucker right here. There it is, folks. It's everything. And so that's how we chose to handle it, which I think was a smart choice, because I think had we revealed everything, or if during the credits we suddenly were showing newspaper clippings of Billy in handcuffs, he's dead obviously, but on a stretcher and his face revealed, or headline news, or the trial, or whatever the case is, I think it would have just ruined the mystique. Yeah.
We did toy with the idea of having shots of them at Disney World, and maybe at Epcot Center, and maybe riding roller coasters like the Hulkbuster or whatever it's called,
We thought about it. Yeah.
Right. And, but then again, we don't want to reveal what Billy looks like. So we would have made sure that the wind was always blowing his hair over his face, so that when he's on the roller coaster, whatever it might be,
that's exactly it.
His identity is always obscured. He's always behind somebody. He's always shorter than everybody in the photo, things like that, right. Whatever.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's exactly it. Actually, there's a great behind the scenes photo
all the time. He's just,
there's a
eye poking through, right? That kind of stuff.
There's a great BTS photo of Victoria, Brian, and Caro, and Brian is facing the other way, but he's got his shirt on backwards and his hat facing. So he's facing the opposite direction, but it looks like he's facing you, because of his hair and his hat. And it looks trippy. It's weird.
It's funny.
But
I don't know why it's funny, but it was funny.
He just didn't want anybody to see him.
Brian's a joker sometimes. He's got a great sense of humor, and he's a lot of fun to work with on set. Yeah,
totally. But yeah, so that's, hopefully that answers that question for you. Now, again, you may hear that and go, I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I think you should have shown, or at least told us something about what was on that drive. And that's fair. And we did. It's everything. Everything. It's everything. It's all there. And so, again, I think that was the right choice to make. Now, we can segue into this too, Bruce. You can piggyback. The choice of having it be a king chess piece, right?
Oh, again, yeah.
Another bit of symbolism.
Well, that's it. When we talked about it, we had originally thought, we were going to go with this, Da Vinci Code type USB drive that you got to turn the dials and it unlocks, and, it's this little puzzle in of itself or whatever. And, as we got on, as a prop in of itself, it looked super cool.
Very cool. Yeah.
But then we got to a point where we thought, it's a bit much. It's just not quite in style with the universe of this film, I'll say. It's cool, but it doesn't quite fit. It made sense that maybe Jess's character might have interest in that as a writer. she just might find that type of stuff interesting. But
Yeah.
then we thought, nah, it needs to be like conspicuous and it's placed. Like you hide things in plain sight, right? As
That's
they
right.
say. So we thought, well, let's put it on a chessboard, the symbolism of the chessboard. Here we are, this game of cat and mouse, a little bit of this game of chess with Jess and the villains, and Sam a little bit here. And so placing the USB drive as a king's chess piece, they capture that. That's checkmate in the game.
That's
So for
right.
Sam to get it, okay, checkmate, we got you guys, as long as she can hold on to it, right?
That's
And
right.
then it kind of becomes a bit of that, it becomes that MacGuffin, which is a term that's used in film all the time to represent that thing, that
That's right.
really important thing that the hero's gotta get.
Yep.
And in a
It's
lot of
the
those,
Shankara stones in
yeah,
Temple of Doom.
yeah, exactly. So that was kind of it with that, and just to kind of signify that, maybe you could consider it a bit of foreshadowing, but maybe. And
But
then
but it's
yeah,
cool. Like
yeah,
it's such a
it is.
cool, and nobody's mentioned it. That doesn't mean that people haven't thought it. Nobody's mentioned it yet. But that was, again, that goes to show you the depths of, we're thinking. We're not just like, hey, just make it a chess piece on a chessboard. That's kind of cool. You know what I mean? It's
And it
sorry.
was no, I was just gonna say it's a great shot to get too. Like
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun to capture that and just get the nice and close up.
Yes.
So we're there with the piece, helps
Yeah.
communicate it visually, but then I think it's interesting, an interesting way to introduce it.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that the fact that it's a chess piece, or excuse me, that it's the king, right?
Mhm.
And Jess doesn't say it's the king, right? In the basement, she says, it's in a chess piece near my desk.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm hoping, again, show, don't tell, right?
Mhm.
I'm hoping that audiences, when they see that moment, they see, a few of the chess, pieces, and there's the king, right? Standing tall, and Sam picks up the king. I'm hoping, at least maybe you'd have to be familiar with the game of chess, obviously, but you'll be able to pick up on, oh, she picked up the king. She didn't pick up the horse. She didn't pick up the queen. She picked up the king. And it's and the evidence is a king USB. And so hopefully they can make that connection. Checkmate. You know what I mean? And like you said, right? And so that was cool to be able to kind of craft the MacGuffin into that sort of, to craft it narratively in that way, I'll say. Because, we could have had it anything. We could have had it in, I don't know, just in the desk lying there on some regular dollar store USB drive or something. You know what I mean? Like,
It wouldn't have been as interesting, right?
Wouldn't have been as interesting. No.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
exactly.
And and to kind of talk about Lisa for a moment. Lisa Kovac, she played Jess Bradford in the film, and again, shout out to Lisa. And kudos to her for being able to step in the 11th hour. And again, I acknowledge, some people may doubt, the journey that we walked, but it is truthful 100%, our experience and what we went through. And our production was approved by SAG-AFTRA. We had an official SAG-AFTRA contract written up. We had the conditions predetermined, discussed, and negotiated with her manager, and also reviewed by her husband at the time that it came for signing the contract. And we went through months of communication with SAG-AFTRA and ACTRA, which is the Actors Union in Canada. So again, I just reiterate to just reassure people again, we're honest guys. We're not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. We really had full intention, and we had full plans mapped out down to the detail of how we were going to get her from LA to Canada, to our filming location. And we detailed that in the contract. It was written out in the document. And some of that we showed when we had to do our, I'll say our press announcement, informing folks that she was unable to participate. And again, it was due to health reasons and under doctor's orders. And we have to respect that choice, right? And it's unfortunate, but at the same time, we're very thankful. Lisa did an amazing job, and
She's terrific.
I was impressed at the fact that here we are 2 weeks out. She's able to, she hadn't seen the script. Like that weekend was a flurry of activity to pivot from Dave and I spending like an entire night just going, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do to, okay, okay, we got to do this. We got to do something. The entire production was like just on a hinge, like, a lot of uncertainty over the course of a 48 hour time period.
Right.
And I'm very, very thankful for how it all turned out. And, here was Lisa. We met with her that weekend and showed her the script. She read it. She said, I love it, guys. We're like, are you available? And she's like, yeah, I'm available. I can do this. And she
Right.
showed up on set like total pro, again, everybody was, and she just showed up and did it. And it was great. Like, she's a cool cat, man. She just, very, very great to work with. And I think she really enjoyed the character as well. And it was fun to be able to kind of talk through it and, discuss moments of the character, especially the scene with her and Sam in the beginning of the movie where they reunite. And that was actually, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but that was we shot the basement first where we reshot the part where Sam is dragged into the room by Billy.
Correct.
And we chose that on purpose and got Greg's input. And he said, no, let's reshoot that.
Yeah.
And that allowed us for continuity. It was really based on continuity of the time at that moment. And it worked best because it was the introduction of a new location in a cutscene. So, and then we went into shooting with the two characters. And we wanted that classic reveal, right? Where Jess is in the shadows and she steps forward and you see the light. Like that kind of thing is very like 1970s, 1980s, like the way that they would reveal the characters. And we had that kind of conversation with Greg too. Some of the cinematography choices, that's how we tried to blend the 1970s style of filmmaking, like with crash zooms, those types of reveals of the character, the way that you frame the character at the beginning to making it feel modern as well. And that a lot of that's the production value. But just coming back to Lisa, it was, that part was a lot of fun. Kind of just talking through with her, the journey of her character too. And the space, like the home that she chose to live in and
that's right.
Details of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and to piggyback off of what you're saying in terms of Lisa, again, and about how we wrote this, and to write enough that you go, but not reveal too much. That dialogue that she has at the end there is short and sweet, but there is a lot that is revealed. That's right. And I don't know if Black Christmas fans realize how much is revealed there, but there's a lot that is revealed there. And I'm going by memory, so forgive me if I'm paraphrasing, but I know who you are. Oh, okay. She knows who he is, obviously, because she's got everything, right? So she would know who he is. And I know what you and your sister have done. Whoa, wait a minute. I know what you and your sister have done. So now we have confirmation, right? Or we think we're going to have it. Hang on a sec. And then she says, the girl in the park, the policeman. Well, for Black Christmas fans, what does that mean? Do you remember the girl that was murdered in the park? Right? You remember him or her? Her, right? Right. The policeman. Remember when shit is going down and there's that nice sort of tracking shot across the Bedford police car and you see the police officer in the car dead with his throat slit? Well, how the hell did Billy get from the attic down to the police car? He didn't. Right. It was Agnes. Yeah. Right? Well, hang on. How did he get to the park but he didn't. It was Agnes. And the girl was a young girl. Right? And maybe a girl around Agnes's age. Maybe Agnes and that girl were friends, right? Or so that one girl thought they were friends. I don't know. But maybe, there's something going on there because we've always imagined Agnes is younger than Billy, right? If Billy was, say, 21, 22, 23 in 1974, maybe Agnes was 13, 14, something like that. Maybe 15, maybe in there, right? You know what I mean? And so, again, that doesn't mean you're going to like that. That doesn't mean you're going to agree with it. But these are the depths that we go to make things make canonical sense, right? And we want to tie all three films together. So when she says, I know who you are and I know what you've done, she says, I know who you are. And I know what you and your sister have done. The girl in the park, the policeman. I know how she helped you. You know, it's like, whoa, what the fuck? Like
it just
that
confirms everything, right? And that also speaks to the evidence on the USB stick.
On the USB stick, that's
because
right.
for me, it's kind of like, well, how would she know that? Well, clearly the evidence on that USB stick has, brought her to those conclusions.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's one of those things where, it's important that people understand that, again, if you watch it and you pay attention, I'm not saying those who watch it don't pay attention, but I just mean, if you really think about it, there's a lot that's getting revealed there. And there's a lot that is, that is sort of revealing the answers that you're looking for in many ways. We're just not doing what Hollywood usually does, which is, oh, by the way, in case you didn't know, blah, blah, blah. It's Scream time. It's Scooby-Doo. Oh, blah. It's not, we're not doing that. And there's some wonderful movies out there that don't do that too, of course. But we chose to go that route with it to make you think, oh, she knows who they are, the policeman, the girl in the park. I know how she helped you. Oh my God, think about those. That reveals so much. And as Bruce just said, it paints a picture of a little bit of what's on this drive, and how she's so certain of that. I know who you are, and I know what you and your sister have done. It's all here.
Yeah.
I know it. The facts are here. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's I think it was again, because of the time restraints and the budget restraints, I think it is a good way to deliver that kind of thing, because it also keeps within the style that we like narratively as filmmakers, but also preserves the mystique of these characters. And you don't really, and that's the whole point. Yeah. You just need to know it's everything. That's it. It's everything that's on there. And you get a little taste of what that is when she says, when she's talking to Billy on the phone. So,
and if anyone's like really curious, you want to go hard into the paint. It was actually Billy's, pool game strategy, right? Because he spent so much time in that institution. They had pool tables, right? He played a lot of pool over the course of 30 years. And so that was his strategy, right? He mapped it out. He drew it out, the physics of it, all of that. So there you go. If you need something.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. It's true. It's true. Now let's talk about the eye.
What?
I know. Let's talk about the eye. Let's talk about the eye, because the eye is for some people, especially for somebody who wrote to me all in capitals. That's how you know they're serious. That's how you know they're serious, when somebody writes all in capitals, and they're yelling at you. It's just a long diatribe of all capitals. It's like, whoa, dude, take a step back. You're a close talker. Just take a step back and be over there. And the eye and the eye and the fire poker.
Yeah. Well, so first off, the eye, as everyone knows, is,
Or should we back up for a second, actually, and talk about the phone in the attic and the destruction of the phone? Because maybe that comes first. So let's talk about that first. Then we'll go into the eye. Let's do that. I'm just thinking of the order of the film. So we won't take long on it, though. But obviously, the phone that's in the attic is the sorority house phone. Yeah. And if, again, this is that connective tissue that we pay attention to. In the first chapter, there's the crash zoom when Sam is in the attic. You hear the phone ring, she turns and looks, and it's the crash zoom onto the number on the dial. Right. And if you're a Black Christmas fan, you know that number, which is, the phone's in the other room, 55 something or other, is the sorority house number. And that was to communicate to the audience at that moment that, oh my God, Jess did keep the phone. Because earlier downstairs, Sam said, no, my mother made my grandmother get rid of it. Well, she didn't get rid of it. She kept it in the attic. And there it is. That's the sorority house phone. So the phone that you see Olivia Hussey on in the first film, that's that phone. That's what it is. And so, and it's that number. And so that phone is incredibly symbolic. It is the connective tissue. It's like it's basically Black Christmas's lightsaber. I mean, it's like Luke's lightsaber almost. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It's
epic.
It's epic. It's incredibly. Of course, we're not going to throw it over anybody's shoulder, but it's
we're not going to talk about that moment.
No, but it's
we're not
incredibly
going to talk about that film.
It's incredibly symbolic, and means so much to the weight of the whole thing. That's the phone where we first hear his voice. That's the phone that he taunted the sorority girls on, and in the original film.
History with that. There's a lot of history there.
So much history with that. So we knew that we wanted to destroy the phone. And we felt that a great way to do that, of course, was at that moment in the attic. Sam takes, it's like she has real agency in that moment. And she takes the axe, and the axe that chopped up her friends, for God's sakes. She takes that axe and she smashes the phone to pieces. It's the destruction of the past. It's the destruction of the power. You're taking that power back. You're eliminating Billy's power with that goddamn phone. You know what I mean? And you're taking that power back. And she's wearing the Black Christmas sweater when she does it. And it was important that we had Sam destroy the phone and not Jess, because this is Sam's moment of coming, she came into her own when she killed Agnes, but this is sort of just to solidify that coming into her own as well. Just that exclamation point on that she's arrived. She's strong. She's made it. Let me just kill. Yeah, I guess, in some sort of way. Let me destroy this phone.
Take a minute here.
Let me just take a minute and destroy this phone. So the destruction of that phone is so important. It means so much. There's so much weight to it. It's the destruction of the Death Star. You know what I mean? It's the burning of Michael Myers at the end of Halloween 2. It's the, whatever it is. I mean, well, actually we have a few moments like that in this movie, but that's definitely one of them. So, very powerful. It's not just the breaking of a phone, it's the breaking of the phone.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly powerful stuff.
Yeah.
But anything you want to add to that, or should we move on to the eye?
No, I think you've said it all. Yeah, I think maybe move on to the eye. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
like
Take
I
it
agree
away,
with
Bruce.
everything you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the eye. Bruce, take it away.
Yeah, well, yeah. So the eye, there's two parts to it, I think. First, so the eye of Billy is like the bag over Claire's head, and probably even more so in some ways, very iconic image that when you see that image, you think Black Christmas.
That's right.
If that type of image is represented in another movie, people think it's an homage to Black Christmas, right? That kind of thing. So we see it as filmmakers, as, the eye is very much the identity that represents Billy. It's his signature,
Yep.
And so, that was something that we wanted to play with throughout the film. So, of course, in the first chapter, we mirror, things that were done in the first movie with his eye and the way that we lit that and made that happen when he's, above Justine there in the room, and we show it in a couple of other ways. And then when we get to the end of chapter 2 and we're in that final fight sequence, Jess breaks into the room and rips that eye out of his skull, right?
Yeah.
With the fire poker.
It was important for us to have Jess be the one to kill Billy, and not just kill Billy, but kill him with the fire poker. Now, it's not the same fire poker from the sorority house in 1974, but it's the same kind of fire poker that she, it's so symbolic that she grabbed a fire poker in the 74 film and didn't do it then. Right. And now she's grabbed a fire poker here, and it's almost like she's completing what she started 50 years ago. And so it had to be a fire poker, not a gun, not a sword, not a knife, not a machete. It needed to be the fire poker.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was, for us, we knew that we wanted to end the film. Like we thought, of course, we always ask ourselves, how do we want to start the film? How do we want to end the film? What kind of shot do we want to begin and end the story with, right?
Yeah.
And we think as filmmakers, those two shots are very important shots. They can really set up your film, and you could do some really cool things with it. And they're special shots. Not every film treats them that way. We definitely thought of it like that. And so with this, we wanted to end with showing just the eye. And the eye, it's like metonymy, where it's like it's a part to represent the whole. To see that eyeball at the end of the poker symbolizes that death of Billy. It's over. It's finished, and at the same time, it reminds us of the entire history of Black Christmas from 1974 all the way through our films, and finishes on that, just like we see of the posters with Billy looking between the crack in the door and everything.
That's it.
To finish on the eye, we just thought would be poetic and wonderfully symbolic, and also show definitively, yeah, he's dead. Although we raised twice as much money on this one as we did the first one, believe it or not, yeah, we were able to do more in terms of any on-screen effects, but we could still only do so much because we made certain choices to invest the money in certain ways. And that was just, by choice. That's just our choice as filmmakers.
That's it.
And just the nature of the piece, right? Some other people may have chosen differently and their project might have looked different, and that's fine, right? Everybody, different choice. So, so the symbolism of the eye on the poker was really first and foremost what's most important when we were sort of working that out. And then we thought, okay, well, that's awesome. That's great. There are some legitimate challenges here in terms of logistics to shoot this, and like, how do we make this work? And we thought about all kinds of different ideas. And, unfortunately, a lot of it sort of fell out of budget or fell out of scope. It just wasn't quite possible. Again, if it was a multi-million-dollar production, different story.
That's right.
But, we did the best that we could with what we had. And again, made certain creative choices where we wanted to, invest the money in the film. So we thought, well, how do we still, okay, so we've got the symbolism. We love how that looks. But we kind of realize as filmmakers, we got to try our best to justify how that's going to end up on the end of the poker there, like just enough, like justify it enough that we basically are asking the audience to suspend disbelief. Because I did read the individual's comments, and fair enough, but it's, for us, the symbolism piece was first and foremost. And then it was about how do we, that's why we chose to put the eyeball on the small hook part as opposed to the tip. Because it wasn't lost on us that, if you go straight in and come straight out, yeah, it's going to be backwards. It's not going to sit there right. So we actually had it, what we had imagined and what we had said to the makeup artist when he was preparing the prop was to wrap, the tendons and the nerves and stuff around.
I have the poker right here, so we can do a show and tell. So keep talking.
Yeah. So, so it was kind of like that, right? And we kind of went to that detail and tried to sort of think through, well, what would it be like? And it was more of like a hook, a scoop out kind of thing. And
So
that's
this
about
is-
I was just
Yeah.
going to say, like, that was kind of pretty much to the extent that we had sort of thought that through, because it was, again, more about the symbolism. That was what was more important. And we thought that was more effective and a good creative choice. But then let's justify it just enough that it's enough that we just ask you to suspend disbelief. And that's, it's just a choice we made. It's an artistic choice as opposed to a literal choice, if that's the best way to put it.
Yeah. And it happens in movies all the time.
Yeah, it does.
Editors have to make that choice with continuity.
It happens all the time.
Editors, I was watching something with, I think it was Scorsese's editor. There's they have to make choices where sometimes the continuity doesn't match, but it's best for the emotion. It's best for the moment. It's best for the character.
Yeah.
And it's just the best edit. Because if I try the continuity, well, now, his shoelace is over on this side. Now it's over on this side, or his tie is done up, but now it's kind of undone. But it's the best take. It's the best moment. It's the best emotion. It's the best performance.
Yeah.
It's the best. And, as
what
an
looks
art form,
best. Yeah.
it's what you have to make that choice. And you hope that everything is perfect when you shoot a film. But for us, not to, completely recap what Bruce said, but I just wanted to say that I agree. It was important for us that symbolism came first. And we wanted to end on that eye. And we didn't want to impale the eye where the fire poker has gone through the pupil of the eye and destroyed the eye, because we wanted the eye to be intact for the final shot. And it doesn't matter. I mean, there were some people who said, but we didn't see Billy. Like, what about him? Is he still alive? Is he on the ground? It doesn't matter, right? Symbolically, that eyeball, when again, and maybe for non-Black Christmas fans, perhaps, again, I don't want to be presumptuous, but maybe it doesn't hit quite the same way. But for Black Christmas fans, the eyeball is what it's all about. That is his heart for all intents and purposes. That's all you ever see of the man. That is Billy, again, for all intents and purposes. So when that eyeball is extracted, his body is just a shell. Again, these are the things we're thinking about in terms of the cinematic language, right? And the symbolism. That body is just a shell. It's just lying on the ground. It doesn't fucking matter anymore. It doesn't matter what he looks like, what his eye looks like, what the hole looks like, what his face looks like, how much blood is on the ground underneath him. It doesn't matter. The eyeball is there. And that's the representation of the life has been taken from him, right? That's it. It's just there. And that's why we wanted to hone in on that and take some creative liberties in terms of the dynamics of it, because it was really, really important. But as Bruce said, no decisions are arbitrarily made. As I said to this gentleman who commented, I said, when you're working at this level and you have this much money at stake, not that everybody does, but for us, we dive deep and we think about these things. And so, as Bruce had mentioned, we wanted to think about, well, how could this be possible to go in and pull it out? And so what we decided to do is, you can see it here, this is the actual prop.
Justified enough too, right? Where it's like, it's not
That's
perfect. We acknowledge that, but again, it's not so much about that. It's like, it's just sort of like, it's just saying to ourselves, it's a conscious choice. Let's justify it enough to the point that we feel as filmmakers, it's acceptable to at least get us from A to B, that we go, okay, I can suspend disbelief. It's really about the symbolism. And like Dave said, it's the eye is the part that represents the whole and everything attached and what that means. And therefore symbolizes the death of Billy and him, we finished the film on him.
Yes, exactly. It's the weight of what that means. You know what I mean? That's the eye. It's done. The eye is no longer in, it's over. Right. It's symbolically what that means for that final shot. And I do have the prop here. This is the actual prop from the film. I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, but if I show you sort of, let me just put my microphone over here. If I show it to you dead on, you'll kind of see what it looked like. Oh, hang on. There we go. Kind of like in the movie. So when I go like this, you can see here, this is the tip of the fire poker, right? This is the hook part, okay? And this is the eye. So the eye has not been impaled. As you can see, it's the eye is perfectly, hang on, it's just the eye
kind of more like scooped out.
Is perfectly
in a way.
That's
in a way, yeah.
So the eye is perfectly intact. It's just the tendons and the not the tendons, but the the tendons and the what do you call it? The like nerves endings and all that are scooped around the hook part of the eye. So what we imagine was that maybe, and again, when you are in a position like that and you're, and you got to save your granddaughter, you're not thinking about precision in terms of, where it's going to go, right? You're just thinking, I'm just going to jam this in your eye. And whether that's through your eye, above your eye, below your eye, or up your nostril, you're just fucking going through the face, right? I'm going to just jam it right in. And so we had always imagined that this part of the fire poker here, the long part, it's still wet, by the way. Still got blood on my fingers here. Possibly goes into the eye, like over the eye, through the eye, right? Like right over the eye. And it's the hook part that scoops the eye out, spinning it, of course, because it gets wrapped on the hook here. So it's just like spinning, it just comes out and it just winds up like this, right? Now you could hear me say that and go, it's fine. It's fine. If you want to think that's totally cool, but it's not impossible. And we thought long and hard about how that could be possible. And with the velocity and with the commotion and everything going on, we thought, yeah, I could totally believe that that's possible. But what came first and foremost is the cinematic language. What came first and foremost is the symbolism of what it means. And we didn't want to impale the eye through the pupil, because then it kind of, we want you to see that pupil. We want you to think for a split second, even though there's no eyelids and it's not attached to anybody's body, that maybe, just maybe, it's going to blink. You know what I mean? We wanted you to kind of have that feeling almost when you're looking at it. You know what I mean? That I think, is that going to blink? I don't know what's going to blink here. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why, again, we had long talks about this. That's why we built it the way we did. And so, but in a lot of cases in movies, as Bruce has said, and Brandon Collins here said something too, which I absolutely agree with. He said, continuity should never adversely affect the cinematic. The eyeball shot is good the way it is. And I agree. Yeah. I appreciate that, Brandon.
And position it the way that we did.
There's lots of movies that do this.
Yeah. I was just going to say, just to finish off, that, that we position it the way that we did, because it's a visual medium first and foremost, as well as an auditory medium, like I keep saying. But then that's just kind of what looked best as well, right? Like Dave said, we talked about it at length, and yeah, it's just the creative choice that we made, right? And fair enough, not everybody might like it, and that's okay.
And that's okay. I mean, people might go, listen, guys, I've heard your explanation. I think it's bullshit. I don't like it. I think it's stupid. I think it's dumb. And I think it's really dumb. And I don't like it. And it's dog shit. And that's okay. Yeah. That's okay. But these conversations really did happen. Yeah. We really talked about this. When the makeup artist came to me, actually, the makeup artist came to me and said, now, do you want it here or here? And I said, no, because if we didn't have these conversations, if we just arbitrarily weren't thinking to this depth, then why didn't we just put it on the end of the fire poker? Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, we would have just put it on the end of the fire poker. I mean, that's the logical placement for something like that. The reason it's on the hook part and not the end of the fire poker is because of those conversations that we had. So we did our best to think of a way that it could be justified. It's gone in and kind of scooped it out, right, as the hook would do, and the tendons get all caught and the eyes spinning all over, and who knows what happens, right? But first and foremost, it is about the symbolism and the eye, and that happens all the time in films. They will take creative liberties just a little bit, just because it works better cinematically, it works better for the emotions, and it just works better symbolically at the end of the day. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think if there's any other. We've talked about the phone. We've talked about the Billy scene.
Yeah. Something that I may be putting into the BTS on the Blu-rays is a breakdown of how we assembled the shot outside the police station. So for those that saw the original Black Christmas, again, it was shot in Toronto. Some of it was shot, UFT, and like there's an actual old police station in Toronto, east end of the city, that was in the film. It's not a police station anymore. It's a community center. Yeah. And we went there. We thought, oh, that would be cool to show that in our movie too, as the establishing shot, as though it's the same police station from the 1974 film. So we put that in our movie. So for those that have seen the original, you would have noticed that. And we had the same street signs, right? But we've updated them because they would have been updated in 50 years. It wouldn't be the same. They would be decayed and rusted out and everything, right? The city would have replaced them. Yeah. So anyway, but that shot, that establishing shot is not, well, it ends as it is a video, but it's actually 3 separate, totally individual photographs that have been assembled together in After Effects to create this jib shot, what appears like a jib shot and a rack focus at the same time to the police station. And there was actually a lot of manipulation that had to happen with the police station itself to replace textures of specific areas. Because actually right now, today, if you go see it, it's actually covered with a lot of like purposeful graffiti art, right? It's not just like,
well, it's a community
bullshit.
Center.
Yeah. It's not like, but it's not like bullshit tags from whoever. It's like, no, it was commissioned artwork that's been put on it, clearly. Or it was part of a community program. And anyway, it was purposeful. So in that regard, intended to be a piece of art. But in real life, that wouldn't be outside a police station. People
Yeah.
would have been arrested for that.
I'm surprised though that Black Christmas fan, I've yet to see anybody bring it up. I'm really surprised that Black Christmas fans haven't noticed that the exterior shot just before we get to the Nancy and Mike Henny scene of the police station is the same building from the original Black Christmas. I'm surprised yet that nobody's, I mean, maybe people have thought it and they just don't think it's a big deal. I don't know.
Or maybe we did such a good job. They were like, I didn't even think twice. It looked real, which was the goal.
No, but I mean, in terms of just mentioning, oh, that's the building. That's the same place. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's what I'm curious. They haven't even mentioned that, but maybe they will now after seeing the show. But yeah, no, it was that is a cool shot. And that was something that definitely we wanted in there as well. So, again, we're going to get to your questions here. But, hopefully we've been able to kind of shed some light onto our process and the way we thought about ending this film and sort of shared some of the symbolism and, the depths that we went to in order to create those layers to make it a more fulfilling experience for people. I think maybe some people aren't expecting that. I'm not sure. If you're a Black Christmas fan, you'll probably pick up on those things a bit more. If you're not a Black Christmas fan or you've never seen the first movie and you saw Billy once 3 years ago, but not since, and you just decide to watch chapter 2, then no, you're probably not picking up on that stuff. But it's there, and it's intentional. And we went to those depths to create, cool, narrative layers that can be discovered, and enrich your viewing experience when watching it again. And hopefully when you watch it again, you can see it from a different perspective now, maybe taking some of the knowledge that we've been able to express here, bringing it from your subconscious mind to your conscious mind and kind of go, oh yeah, I didn't really realize. It's like in chapter 1, when we do that tracking shot where we track from left to right when we're showing the girls, right? It's the opening shot and we see the girls in the dining room, and where we land, where we actually land is the same height and the same position as the phone in the living room on the table. And so I remember having talks with you about how I want to do that because it's almost as if Billy is watching them from the other room, because it's a very voyeuristic sort of kind of like somebody's watching them from a distance, right? And the dining room is all lit. The living room is, all dark except for the Christmas tree. And you just kind of sit there and you just watch, and it doesn't move. We're just kind of watching. But if you pay attention, because earlier in the movie, we track right to left as Victoria enters the living room. And as we track her over to the fireplace, there's the phone with the table there. And so again, these are, they're deep cuts. You have to be paying attention. You got to be thinking at it on that level. And not everybody does, and that's fair. But these are the things that we think about. So because it for us as filmmakers, it excites us to tell a story like that. It excites us to shoot a movie like that. It excites us to work with actors on that level. It excites us to work with our DP on that level. And it just makes making the story and the movie and telling the story that much more enriching and fun, not just for the viewer when you watch it, but for us making it. And because we love that kind of stuff, because it makes it that much more just enriched. So,
and authentic, I think too.
Authentic. Yeah, exactly. So let's jump over to the Q&A, Bruce, and see what people are saying. Now, let me just go over to Facebook, because I want to get some of these questions from Facebook. I had asked on a post today for people to send in their questions. Okay. And some people did. And so let's see some of these questions. We'll start with this one. This comes from Chastity Lynn Wilson, who says, do you or Bruce have any shots or parts that didn't make it in the film that you wish you had more time to add? And if so, what were they? Congratulations on the release of It's Me, Billy 2. Can't wait to watch it. Well, Chastity hasn't watched it yet. And if she's watched this stream, we've totally spoiled it for her. But nonetheless, shots or parts that didn't make it in the film that you wish you had more time to add. Bruce, I've been talking here for a moment, so I'll let you go first.
I wouldn't say any shots specifically come to mind. More so, one or two scenes where I wish we had a little bit more time to get a bit more coverage, so we could have extended the sequence just a little bit more. That would have been nice. And but again, for anybody that's ever made a movie, sometimes, just to be perfectly honest and transparent, the logistics of shooting it, there's challenges within that, or things just naturally take the time that they take to do. And that's just making a movie, and so you do the best that you can. And, as they say, there's the movie you write, there's the movie you shoot, and there's the movie you edit. And that's very much true in a lot of cases, but nothing specific. I'll just kind of keep it general, but maybe more in the study, like toward the end, the action shots with Billy, that struggle, the at the desk. There's a couple shots we would have liked just a little bit more coverage around that. Not too much more, but just a little bit, and maybe a bit in the fight sequence again with Agnes and Sam, maybe if that could be extended just a bit more, but at the same time, it's, you don't want to extend it too much, because then, it's not an Indiana Jones film.
Right.
So, you gotta,
well, we were going to have Sam get tossed through the window and,
yeah, it was candy glass, everything. Yeah. We got cut to the outside and you see her. Yeah, no.
I agree with you. I think really it was just, coverage. I will say this, here's a bit of tidbit information, because this is kind of cool, trivia. The smashing of the phone was shot just about a month or so ago. Yeah. Yeah. So the actual destruction of the phone itself was shot in September. Yeah. And so that was something that was not shot on the main shoot. When Victoria was coming down with the axe, obviously it was into a pillow, not into any sort of phone. But that's movie magic. Hopefully, I haven't destroyed the mystery the magic for you guys. But these are all movie fans here; they know how this works. That's movie magic. And then because it was something that we just didn't have time to get during the main shoot. And looking at the film when we were assembling it, we both said, we need to get this. We need to not just hear the phone being broken. We need to see the phone being broken. It's the phone. It is one of the symbols of this universe. It's one of the symbols of Billy. I want to see it getting smashed and crunched, and I just want to see it. And Bruce is like, yeah, and so
I said it just like that too.
Just like that. So we, but we knew we had time. And so I don't know if you guys remember, but if you follow me on social media, about a month or so ago, I posted some, there was a pickup shot that Bruce and I and Greg, our DP, had gone out to get. And we shared a couple of photos. Well, that was it. It was the destruction of the phone. So the destruction of the phone is actually caused by me. I was destroying the phone.
And that floor was a pallet. Like, for anybody I don't know if anybody here works in a warehouse, or, it's a 4 foot by 4 foot wooden pallet that you would stack boxes on, or, it's for shipping, right? Yeah. You load it on a truck, like wrap and strap it and load it on a truck, and there you go. So
now we have people that are going to watch and go, oh, I can tell. I can tell. Yeah. Shut up. No, you can't. No, you can't. Sit down.
What's cool about it is just, again, like that, when you get to those types of close-ups, you can fake it, right? And it's all about how you light it, the composition, how tight you get with the shot. Yeah. And as well, it mattered that I tried, I found a palette that the texture matched.
Great job.
The floor. Of the attic. That's the word.
And then the master, Greg, comes in and lights this set. Basically, we're on a set, and lights this palette as the same lighting that we had in the attic at the house. Yeah. And then of course the shot is not an extreme close up, but it's a close up. We did it. We had an extra phone. The phone that was destroyed was not the phone that was used in the movie. I mean, it's the same phone with the same phone number, but I still have the phone that was actually used. I had Victoria sign it because I wanted to keep it. I thought that was cool. So we had another one. We had there's a hero phone, just like there are hero Michael Myers masks. There's a hero phone, and then there's the the Axe Destruction phone. Of course, you're supposed to think it's the same phone, but the Hero phone is fine. It's in my my room over here. But yeah, no, that was important to us. So that's a bit of trivia there, you know, when you're watching. But of course, when it's done right and you know what you're doing and you can seamlessly weave everything in, then, you know, you shouldn't be any the wiser. And anybody who's now going to be like, I always knew.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
No, it's cool. It's cool. Well, it's like the police
cool.
station too. Like, hopefully you can't tell that it's literally photographs that I've stitched together and in a very particular way. There was a lot of time spent. I actually built all the layers in Photoshop first, manipulated it, and then brought it into After Effects and animated it for all intents and purposes, exported a final video of just, you know, the shot. And then that was brought into the timeline. I did basic level color correction to make sure everything looked like it matched and was in the same space at the same time of day.
But nobody will.
And then,
like, I mean, it's because it's an illusion that's created, right? So what you've done is a great job. You've added motion to the sequence. You have rack focusing, right? Which is a very much it's very much a video thing, right? Yeah. In terms of, you know, shooting, the image is 4K. So, I mean, it's high resolution. Yeah. And when you add movement to the scene, you add the sound effect of you know, the city's, you know, the cars and the streets and all that. The sound
grounds it.
The sound grounds it. And then of course you also have a bit of the snow wisping through the air very lightly. You know what I mean? It sells it. It sells it. And if you didn't know that, then you wouldn't think twice about it. You know what I mean? And so, because it's a combination of several different things that are all working together to be able to sell it. And if you take the street noise out and if you were to take the street noise out or replace it with something else and then take the snow out, it doesn't sell it as much, right? You know what I mean? But it's a combination of many things working together. So no, it's a great shot, and we needed to get it in there. So it looks great. But thank you, Chastity. Thank you very much. Steve McCoy says, did you, and we will get to the questions in the chat here in a second. I just want to get through Facebook first. There's only a few of them. Did you have any other endings for the film that you considered, or was it always, this is Steve McCoy, I don't know if I said that. Did you have any other endings for the film that you considered, or was it always going to be the one that ended up in the film? I love the film, but would like to have seen it drawn out a little bit more at the end. Did we have other endings for the
I don't recall us having alternate ending, but to your point and your question, you know, we wish we had just a little bit more time in the shooting schedule. We could have captured just a bit more coverage of that scene so that we could extend it a bit. But we did the best that we could with what we had. And I still am very, you know, I think I can say for both of us, we're still very proud of how it's turned out, despite any time pressures that we may have faced. And, you know, very happy with how we were able to get it to cut together.
I agree. I agree. I agree. I don't recall any significant different ending.
No.
Kevin,
there was that conversation with Mickey and like the rest of the
Donald and Goofy, and we were gonna we were gonna prop like Billy like Weekend at Bernie's on like Dumbo at Disney World, where it's just kind of like,
he was gonna wear the Daffy hat that you often
totally would have been a great ending. Kevin Lancer says, what is your on-set memory? I guess maybe what's your favorite on-set memory? I think just, this is going to sound like a cop-out, but I think just being in the environment and being in the environment on that level and just hanging out with everybody and shooting a movie. You know, there's some behind the scenes stuff that's always fun and joking around and just laughing. I think it was so much fun. I'll say it was a lot of fun playing. So as you guys know, Shelby Handley, who played Emma, by the way, go and watch her new movie Cheat, which is now on demand and Apple TV and things like that. It's a thriller. She's fantastic. She obviously was in It's Me, Billy Chapter 1. She came back to not reprise her role, but as one of our makeup artists on Chapter 2, because she does have makeup artist experience. And so it was really cool to have her there. And I just remember it was the night we were doing the turnover. So we'd shot for 2 days. Now we're going into night shoot. So we're all staying up until like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, because we're going to sleep until about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, because we're doing the nights. And I just remember hanging out with Victoria and Shelby, and they were teaching me a card game that I'd never heard of. And I just sucked. It was one of those fast card games. Like you have to put cards down and you got to like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, no. Yeah. One of those games. I don't know what the hell it was.
Is it Speed?
I can't remember. I have no idea. No idea. But I just was like, I had no idea what I was doing. I was so slow. I felt completely useless, in this situation. I just felt like such a noob, but it was so much fun because the day was over. We were just staying up, and just because we had to stay up until like 3 so we could sleep late. And that's a lot of fun, when you have such wonderful people that are just so fun to hang out with. It makes the work that much better, but it also makes the downtime, there's the on camera and the off camera, and there was just some wonderful off camera shenanigans. It was just so much fun, and like that card game, I was like, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing here, like I'm getting creamed, but that was kind of fun. That was kind of fun. Yeah. What about you, Bruce? Anything specific or just kind of a general?
No, I would say the same thing. I know, like you said, it sounds like a cop-out, but it's just being in the environment, just the entire experience, the process. I enjoy the process. I enjoy the collaboration, the energy of the space with all the people. And then, and getting to see things come to life on the monitor. You spend all this time planning and prepping. You watch everybody work and they're doing their thing. And then, the camera starts to roll, and now you get to see it. And right away, you can tell as a director if this is working or not, and you get into it. So like that whole thing, it's magical in some way.
It is,
and I love the magic of it. That's why I love it. Yeah, it's like you're chasing after that moment all the time to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Let me see here, and then we've got Karen Kennedy says. Hi. That's good. Oh, okay. Anyway. Hi.
Okay.
I'm one of the backers. Loved both films. My question is, in Black Christmas, there was a scene where Billy chased Jess down the stairs. Did you think about recreating or adding a similar scene for It's Me, Billy 2? The short answer is no, I don't think we did. No. I don't think we had a big chase scene. No. Because initially the role was going to Olivia Hussey. And Olivia Hussey, you have to be careful when you're dealing with somebody who's 72. So no, there was no scene that was written where there was a big epic chase scene between the two. We wanted to keep it tight and scary but sort of maybe a little more self-contained in that sense. Not any big sort of wild chase scene. And then Neil Rook says, was there ever a moment where you thought of showing Billy's face properly, or was keeping him in the shadows the plan all along, Bruce?
No and yes.
That's right.
Yeah, we never wanted to show his face proper ever. That was very deliberate. We were okay with the body, the outline, and seeing the hair, because that was a wonderful characteristic of Brian's. And we wanted to showcase that. We just thought it naturally added really well to the character. But we didn't ever want to see his face proper, not ever. We thought that would ruin it for sure. For sure, that would ruin it.
100%.
Yeah. So no, we wanted to keep him concealed. And then it was about talking with Greg on how can we, like the dining room scene. How do, Greg had a lot of fun in crafting that and making that, shaping the light so that it helped conceal him, but make it look natural. He just happens to be sitting in the darkness, but the light's just coming across his chin, and it's like, that kind of stuff. It's cool. And I like that because then it feels properly motivated and it looks fantastic. Again, that's one of my favorite scenes visually because it's so striking, film noir. It's just,
that's great.
Greg did a fantastic job.
Yeah, it's outstanding. It's outstanding. Dan Kutzman says, did you and Bruce ever have a major disagreement on how a scene should be shot?
Well, there was, when it came to the police station, I was really advocating for having Lynn's character descend in through the ceiling like a paratrooper, guns blazing, ready to fucking take out the place. But Dave was
I just thought she should walk through the front door.
Yeah, he was like, Bruce, it's too much.
Yeah, it's too much.
No. No, I don't know.
I don't think there was any. Major,
I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing.
Of course.
I hope everyone knows that. I'm just teasing. I'm loaded with bad dad jokes, so just please excuse me.
That's true.
I'll stop.
I don't think there was anything that was. Look, I mean, Bruce and I don't always agree. We get along and we work well together because we do share the same vision on a lot of things. But we also are our own people too, right? Which is why we do want to direct solo projects as well. We want to direct together moving forward, but we also have our own ideas too. And so we don't always agree on certain things, but we're very good at compromising and at least noodling through and finding a compromise on, like if Bruce has his heart set on something going one way and I have my heart set on something going another way, then we're very good at noodling a compromise somewhere in the middle. That might take a few days. That might take a few writing sessions. That might take going away and coming back. Maybe Bruce will come back and go, you know what, actually, you know what, it doesn't bother me now. Or, I don't feel okay. Or maybe I'll do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And then if it's something that I don't have my heart set on, maybe I'll just like, you know what, Bruce, let's just do it this way. It's cool. It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
And he'll say the same thing. So,
and we had several moments like that. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. I'm trying to think of an example, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. But
no, but we always worked through it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But never any major disagreements or anything like that.
No.
And then I think it's Gordy. It could be Jordy. Newland says, was Billy really killed by Jess? Because the poker in the eye doesn't seem like a killing blow to me. Yes, he was killed.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say. He was killed.
Yeah.
He was killed, folks. He was killed. That poker, that tip went right into his, you can see it right into his brain or something. Pull it. Well, then where's the brain matter?
Pulled out the ocular nerve.
It flew. It flew behind Jess and hit the wall, and it's, I don't know. You just don't see it. You don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
It hit the
I
corner.
need to see it.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
no, he's
if
dead.
we've got a $2 million budget, then we'd be able to,
There you go. Well, yeah, I was going to, yeah, exactly. Okay, now let me jump over to see what you guys are saying here. I just want to quickly get these super oh, yeah, I got were there super chats sent in from, no.
There might have been super chat. Oh, you mean on the first half of the stream?
Yeah. So
there might have been, yeah.
I've got them. Josh McKenna, $9.99. Thank you, Josh. And says, loved the movie, shared it with my friends and family. Great mood and atmosphere. Spoiler, I absolutely loved it when Sam spits on Agnes. Oh, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
That's
Shout out to Jerry, our makeup artist, because he did a fantastic job prepping that, right? I don't know if folks know, but it's actually like a glycerin mixture that's used to simulate the spit. So it's not her real mucus on her. It's a practical effect in camera.
Yeah. Sean Sheridan, been a member for 14 months. Thank you, Sean. It says, very good movie, dudes. I had issues with the movie, but overall, I think It's Me, Billy is a 4 out of 5 and a worthy sequel to Black Christmas. I could score for both 1 and 2. Excuse me, I count score for both 1 and 2 because it's a complete movie to me. Hey,
cool.
4 out of 5 is pretty good to me.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Happy Sanjo has been a member for 9 months. Thank you, Happy. And says 9 months. That's an internet baby. That's true, Happy. It is. $5 from Kyle says, congratulations, Dave and team. Fantastic work. Can't wait to see what's next on the horizon in terms of original projects. Thank you, Kyle.
Nice.
Mark Striano, been a member for 14 months, says, congratulations to Dave and Bruce on your ongoing success. Great job with It's Me, Billy Chapter 2. Really enjoyed it. And thank you for your hard work and dedication.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
It's really nice.
Yep. Carl Weidman sends in $5. Thank you, Carl. Says, as much as I would have loved to see Olivia Hussey in the film, Lisa Kovac did a great job as Jess and was a really good substitute for Olivia Hussey.
Yeah, I know she'd
agree.
really appreciate hearing that. Yeah. She did do a fantastic job.
Absolutely. Oliver Mercer sends in £20. Thanks, Oliver. Says, I absolutely loved the execution of Billy 2. Yet, I'm intrigued why you didn't answer. Of course, we kind of answered this earlier. Why you didn't answer for what was found on the stick drive. I get it by keeping it a mystery, but perhaps giving a little bit, maybe? We did. It's everything. And it has something to do with... I know she helped you, the girl in the park, the policeman. I know who you are. It's all there. It's all there. It's all there, folks. Tony Movie Chappie D9 Neil Blomkamp fans sends in $4.99 and says, what would you guys do if Jason Blum asked you to direct an actual sequel to Black Christmas? We would say probably yes.
Yeah. Or see if maybe we could use what we've got maybe as canon, and maybe there's
something we can do there.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, let's just put it this way. It's a conversation we would have. I mean, for sure. Yeah. Josh McKenna, $9.99 again. Thank you, Josh. It says, I saw that DM you posted that a troll sent you. They thought It's Me, Billy was fantastic, even though they can't stand you. They gave you a thumbs down and admitted they were being petty and childish. Oh, that was great. I don't know if anybody who follows me on social media saw that. Let me just read this. This was from somebody who watched the movie, and this, you know what, as you said, Bruce, hey, at least they're honest, right?
Yeah, it was very interesting. A very interesting comment. Yeah.
Very interesting comment. So they said, Dave, I'm not a fan of yours. I can't stand you. I can't stand your views on movies. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, dude, life's too short, man. Like, go out and touch grass. You know what I mean? Like, stop. You know, like, come on. Like, I mean, it's just movie opinions, bro. Like, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's because we're in our 40s, Bruce, and you grew up when there was no internet. But I'm just like, this isn't real, man. Just relax. You'll be okay. This too shall pass. And I can't stand that both your Billy films are absolutely fantastic, despite them being incredibly well done, from the camera work to the acting to the writing to the sound design to your mood and atmosphere. Everything is professional studio quality. I gave you a thumbs down on YouTube and will continue to do so everywhere I can rate. Why? Because I can't stand you. Yes, it's spiteful. Yes, I understand what I'm doing is petty and childish, but I cannot and will not bring myself to give you credit for anything you do. Sorry, your views on Halloween 5, Halloween Resurrections, oh God. You know what I mean? And your crazy voices are just annoying and wrong. They're wrong, Bruce. It's Me, Billy 2 is utterly fantastic, and I hate you for it. Thanks.
Okay. Okay.
I'm like, thank
Moving
you,
on.
maybe? I hope wherever this person is, I hope you're doing well, and I hope you were able to touch that grass that is just outside your door.
Just I wish you well. Absolutely.
And thanks for watching.
Appreciate the honesty. You know what? I appreciate the honesty. I do sincerely. It's I've never heard anything like that before.
I know. It kind of strange. It's kind of strange. And then DM right? Oliver Mercer sends in £10, says, did you think about having Detective Mike Henney seeing Jess alive on screen so it shows that he was wrong? It was awesome seeing my cameo. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. You had your cameo on the missing persons poster. Congrats to Dave and Bruce. Will you show the film to Olivia? We're going to send it to her agent and maybe he'll show it to her. We'll see. I don't know. And so did we think about having Mike Henney see Jess alive? I don't think well, there was a few ways that we could have shot that ending. There were a few discussions we had about, does Detective Mike Henney, there was a couple of ideas where we had maybe he comes into the house as well. There's where that conversation between Nancy and Mike happened in the house, not in that room necessarily, but maybe in the hallway outside or in the corridor and things like that. But we ultimately decided to have it happen in the car at the end for time. We were under time as well, but also because although maybe you, Oliver, and maybe some others would have liked to have seen Mike Henney see Jess, so you can see that he sees that he's wrong. Him by Nancy giving him the evidence, he's about to find out very quickly when he gets back to the police station he was wrong, and so that's part of that. Life goes on after the credits, right?
Yeah.
That he's like, what is this? We're about to solve that, cold case once and for all. And he's left in the car with this piece of evidence. He's about to find out that he was wrong and dead wrong. You know what I mean? And so, so it was just, again, if we had more money and more time, then maybe it's something that we would have considered, but it wasn't necessary for the story to make sense.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to assume that it's very possible Henny would have gotten out of the car maybe at that point. There's other police arriving on the scene, paramedics, whoever, and so he would probably be the lead detective. So he would have gotten out of his car possibly and still surveyed the scene and eventually met her at some point, but after the credits have rolled or what have you. So I think that's a fair assumption to make too,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm just laughing at Brandon Collins' message. Dominic Orthanian Gerard, the director of Halloween 5, wrote Dave that message, by the way. That is the best. Brandon's very witty, so I love it. That's awesome. It probably was. Oh my God. You sitting there at home, like, oh, fucker, Dave McRae. Real Reveal, Theo, Real Reveal, sends in 279, says, congrats on the film. I loved it. Was that a cow eye? No, it was not a cow eye. It was a synthetically created human eye. It was not. It's like
it's a purchased prop,
rubber and things like that. So no. Robert Kitzmiller, member for 14 months, says Victoria has the most gut-wrenching cries. I agree. I don't think she gets enough credit for that. The realism, probably some of the best I've ever seen on screen. Ooh, high praise. Amazing. I'm going to send that to Victoria. How important was that detail during the audition process? I would say it was important. Bruce can back me up on this if memory serves correctly. When we were auditioning, actually, I think we had this in the audition for all three girls on chapter 1, where to have a moment where they scream.
Right. Yes, that's right.
And so Victoria did do that. But it was more than just that, obviously, that got her the role. It was also in her audition, she was crying and she was going through those moments and those beats. And I said to Bruce, not only does she look like she could be Olivia Hussey's granddaughter, but I mean, she's crying on cue. I mean, she's got this great scream and the performance was great. And, it was funny.
It was a great audition.
It was a great audition. And so, that's what won her the role. But yeah, no, she goes there, and it's I've teased her about that in a positive way, of course. I'm just like, Victoria, I don't know how you do it. And I'm just, it's amazing how she can just, I mean, she just goes there. She knows how to go there. And so, yeah, I don't think she gets enough credit personally. I think her cries, and again, it's what's called a dirty cry. And so it's not a Hollywood cry, right? It's a dirty cry. And
that's
so,
what we wanted. That was like the direction that we gave. Like it was, because it was, there were moments where like those scenes in particular, we really talked through with her, if this were really happening, how would you react? How would you cry over that?
Right. Especially
with the Justine scene, discovering her in the rocking chair, her father, in chapter 2, it was, and just letting her go there. Right. And there were only a limited number of takes that we could get, because as an actor, like there's only so much fuel in the engine to hit that peak
That's right.
consistently before the performance starts to sound contrived. To keep it authentic, as though she really is feeling that, and just a
Yeah.
truthful reaction. Yeah, like there was, I would say, tops like 3 takes,
Yeah.
maybe 4, and then it was like, yeah, and you had to make sure all the other elements when filming
Yeah.
were in place, so you
And
don't compromise the performance.
that's it. And I think with a lot of, major studio films, we're used to the Hollywood cry or the Hollywood scream, right? And as I said, it's important that we wanted it dirty, we wanted it visceral and real. We didn't want it so polished. We wanted to be icky. Like she's, all it's like, oh my God, like, and because that's what that's what you would do, in that situation. And so she's terrific at that. And she was great. She was absolutely great. And then, Leah O'Connor sends in, $2.79. Thank you.
Shout
Leah.
out to
Appreciate
Leah.
that.
Yeah. Hey, what's up?
Thank you. And then Carl Weidman sends in $5. Says, Dave mentioned Port Robinson Road on a project of his. Bruce, is there a film project of yours that you're working on that you can share?
Yeah, I've been asked this before. So yes, there is a project that I've begun the writing process. I'm kind of in the research writing process phase. I haven't had too much time to commit to it for obvious reasons, and so I'm hoping to get some more time as we go into the next year. And I'm trying to think about, it's an idea that could be a feature film. It could be best as like a television series. I'm also thinking about how to secure funding for it, what might be a good way to go, and there's some things maybe to talk with Dave about regarding that too. So I'm just trying to think if I'm not quite willing to share all of it, because it's one of those, I will say this. It's a science fiction drama based piece, but I would say dramatic narrative first. That it's set in the real world. It's not like science fiction, like Star Wars or Star Trek or something like very fantastic like that. It's
Right.
It's grounded, real world, dealing with real issues, and really getting into. Because I have a love for a lot of different genres, right? And science fiction is actually one of my favorite genres, and I love when it helps to make a social commentary on what's going on in real life. I find audiences can sometimes accept it more, or they're willing to suspend that disbelief, and just encourage that thought, get people thinking. I just find that shit really cool. I don't know. Some people don't. They're like, yeah, just give me the explosions and the whatever. One day, yes.
Not me.
Yeah. But this particular piece, it's more, I would say it's making a social commentary, science fiction, drama, grounded reality. And that's as much as I want to share, just at this point, because I'm still kind of coming up with the ideas and stuff.
Yep.
And, sometimes it kind of ruins the creative process. And then you kind of feel stuck to an idea because you said it publicly, and it's like, oh, what if it changes? And you're like, I feel caught in a corner. So that's as far as I'll share. Hopefully you understand. But once I have more, I'm definitely willing to share more in the future once I've got the ideas fleshed out more.
Cool. Now I just want to get a few of these non-super chat ones as well, because there's some good ones in here. Some people that have sent this in. How are you for time, Bruce? You
doing
good?
okay. A few more minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let me see here. Wanted to see. Hang on a sec here. We've got Aaron Click says Dave and Bruce was a callback to the defend of hiding behind the. Okay. I see what you're saying. So a callback to hiding behind the curtains with the shoes sticking out at the bottom of the curtains. Ever considered to call back to? Really thought we'd see that. So for those of you that don't know what Aaron Click is talking about, in chapter 1, as Emma and Justine are walking up the stairs at the beginning of the movie, Emma's just casually reminiscing about her time there as a child with Sam, and she says her grandma we used to hide behind these curtains, and her grandma used to see our feet, sticking hanging out the bottom. And Aaron isn't the only one that thought that we were going to do that, or maybe should have done that. Bruce and I talked about it, and I said, let's not do it. And because we said people will be expecting us to do it. And I said, let's go against it and not do it. Now, some people may see that as a missed opportunity, but I see that just going against expectation, that it doesn't, would it have been a nice sort of come full circle for that moment? Sure. But I don't think, yeah, exactly. It's a great setup, great foreshadowing. But I remember saying, let's not do that, because I think people are going to expect us to do that. And I want to surprise people more than have them know what's going on that early in the movie, or what to expect that early in the movie. So that's ultimately why we never went back to it. Yeah. Entertainment Wizard said, Dave and Bruce, I wanted to ask about the secret study. It has windows, and it seems to be on the main floor, and I was surprised Billy and Agnes would not have found it earlier. Well, it's a big house, and the windows face a big, there's a big ravine there and sort of a ledge that looks over a cliff, if you will. Not like a cliff of 100 feet, but certainly like a cliff. And so like an area, so it's situated in an area where you wouldn't necessarily think to look, and and of course there's a shelf there blocking the entranceway. It's a secret sort of, it's almost like Rosemary's Baby, in some ways, where there's that little sort of kind of thing that's put up against that secret door in that hallway, and you don't really think, because it looks like it's supposed to be there, and so you don't really think to kind of check there. And Billy and Agnes, I guess maybe they weren't surveying the house. And it's also a movie.
Yeah. It's a little bit, I think, again, that just the realities of everything that Dave said. And we're just kind of relying on the idea that it's a big house, making the assumption that, even if they were able to, that they just haven't found it. You know what I mean? They haven't found the entrance. They just don't know, because it is hidden in plain sight type thing.
But Billy was onto it.
It's
a great moment, because there was when Sam goes into the alcove, when she opens the door she obviously, when Billy goes and he steps down onto that landing, he notices that the door is open. Yeah. Now the door, the basement door, right? The basement door is open. Sam left the basement door open, and the light's there. And that's what causes him to stop. And that's when he looks over at the shelf, and we have that great tense moment where he's just standing there for what seems like an eternity, right? And he's looking at the shelf, and it's such a great moment. It's like, but he knows something's up. He knows there's something wrong here with this shelf, which is ultimately how, he was able to figure out how to get in there at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then let me see here. Got that. Hang on a sec here. Dun, 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 dun. Bobby Hall says, I thought the exposition scene with Nancy and the detective was cool, but would have liked it if they cut back a couple of times to a 2-shot instead of just the close-up the whole time to add some variety. Well, this was a stylistic choice. We have the establishing shot when she enters, and then the establishing shot when she leaves. And we wanted to not remove ourselves from the intimacy of that moment. And so the reason why we went back and forth between the close-ups is because we wanted to keep the audience in the moment of the intensity of the drama, if you will, rather than as soon as we cut to the wide, you remove yourself a little bit emotionally. And so if we keep ourselves like this and like this, and like, as long as we establish the space, because you have to do that, you have to establish where they are as they enter at the very beginning. As long as you do that, keeping them sort of here like this and like this and like this, and allowing it to build and build and build, and the drama build and build and build, was a stylistic choice. And I obviously, we think it works very well. So I think maybe if it had been maybe a bit of a different conversation, maybe a different subject, maybe we would have liked to have maybe cut back, or we had some ideas. We would shoot maybe through the window, or we'd shoot kind of, through the, whatever the case is. But ultimately in editing, we felt like, I don't want to leave this. I don't want to remove myself. I want to stay here. I want to stay at the table. You know, I want to stay like I'm really there with him at the table and not kind of, you know, I don't want to be a spectator. I want to be like I'm in on the conversation. And so that was ultimately why we decided to keep with those shots. Bruce, anything you want to add to that?
No. I think you covered it well. Yeah, no, I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Steve McCoy says, to be clear, I'm satisfied with the final product you've given us. I just felt like a couple of more minutes of suspense before Billy's demise would have been nice. You guys did an amazing job regardless. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Countless Zachnia says, did you guys think to recast the role of Jess's boyfriend? I think you mean Claire's boyfriend. When the original actor didn't want to come back, definitely would have mirrored Exorcist 3 with Kinderman is a recast. No, we didn't want to parallel Exorcist 3. We didn't want you to think of any other movie. When I mentioned George C. Scott in Exorcist 3, I was just talking about inspiration. Not necessarily that he's going to literally be George C. Scott. But I just mean, like, you know, had Art Hindle played that role, we might have had him in like a trench coat, you know, walk in, you know what I mean? Just kind of like in that kind of vein. But we definitely don't want you to think of any other movie when you're watching our film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So no.
Yeah.
Robert Thidoff says, Dave and Bruce, great job on part 2. My biggest question is explaining Jess's body from the car accident. I know Agnes replaced her body, but wouldn't they have to verify dental records? Well, that was brought up in the police station scene. You know, she says, you know, what about the DNA? And Detective Henny says her body was burned beyond recognition. And Nancy says, well, what about the dental records? And Mike Henny says, Nancy, you know, I can't, you know, release that, but the lab confirmed it was her. And so obviously there's some sort of botchery going on here.
Yeah.
Obviously
some incompetence that he doesn't want to admit to or isn't aware of, or
That's right. Because Nancy then says, oh, for fuck's sakes, Mike, those clowns can't confirm shit. So that should tell you right there that whatever happened with these dental records isn't the first time this has happened, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, sorry, Bruce, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's you go. No, you go. Okay, you go.
No,
it's
you
like
go,
that dance on the sidewalk. It's like that dance on the sidewalk. You know? But yeah, that was to communicate to the audience that, oh, so this lab, because we were thinking about those things too. Well, what about the dental records? And that's what Nancy says. Well, what about the dental records? Like, right? You know, and he's like, Nancy, you know, I can't, you know, release that because she's not a detective anymore, right? She's a former detective. So he can't just go to his office and hand them to her and she takes them home, right? You know, so that's what he means by like, Nancy, you know, I can't, you know, release that. Translation, Nancy, you know, I can't give them to you. I can't just go over there and give them to you, right? But the lab confirmed it was her. And she's like, oh, for fuck's sakes, Mike, those clowns can't confirm shit. So that should narratively communicate to you as an audience member, okay, like I said, this is not the first time these clowns apparently have fucked shit up. And so they obviously fucked this up.
It's a nice way of instilling, like it simultaneously puts the audience in the same place as the character, which they do a lot in films as well, right? And that's really the choice there, where there's doubt that's automatically cast in the mind of the character as well as the audience at the same time because of how Henny responds. And because of that sort of common knowledge that the dental records would be a key piece to identify. And it just doesn't sound right. It sounds like Dave said there was, some incompetence there or something happened and she doesn't believe it. And we as an audience don't believe it either. And of course, by this point in the story, we know she's alive. So, from the audience's point of view, it's very accepting, in that sense. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good question.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it was very good. Very good. And then let me see here. I got that. Robert Kitzmiller sends in $5, says, oh, and by the way, am I tripping, or is there a song similar to Tubular Bells in IMDb 2? Don't know if this has been mentioned already. Tubular Bells is the Exorcist theme. Unless you're thinking of the Carol of the Bells during the end credits, I don't think so. There's no tubular bells in there, so it's all
All
good.
the music comes from an artist. He goes by the name Thrill,
Yeah.
and we used a
He's
lot of music in
he's
this film.
great. He was great to work with. He's good. I exchanged a couple emails with him and went back and forth, and he was terrific.
Yeah.
Brandon Collins says a 2-shot in that instance would have throttled back the pace of the story. 2 shots like the ones that break up the restaurant scene between De Niro and Pacino in Heat are character respite from action. It's true. Yeah, that's a great way to say it. Again, yeah, it's a talking about the detective scene. You're correct. Like going to the 2-shot would have. I mean, we're basically saying the same thing. I communicated it as removing a bit of the intensity of the emotion for the audience, because now you're putting the audience further back away from the characters. And again, you don't necessarily think of this consciously as an audience member, but it does. How you choose to edit a scene like that can affect how an audience member feels at any given time throughout any different shot.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us to cut back to a 2-shot for 20 seconds as we see them back and forth, we could have done that. We did shoot the whole scene from that perspective. But it just, when we were editing it, we said, this is so compelling. These performances are so strong. I don't want to remove myself from this. It's just electric.
Yeah.
And so, and if I don't want to remove myself from this, Bruce and I don't want to remove our audience from it either.
Yeah. 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 Well said. Well said.
Yeah. Countless follows up and says, but did you guys think to recast that role, though, rather than going the route of having Nancy take over that spot? I was just referencing Kinderman is a similar ordeal. No, I don't think we did. I think once Art Hindle had declined, and again, for those of you that are just tuning in late, it's a long stream, but there's a lot to go through. Art loved the script, said Bob Clark would have loved it, but he passed on it. And sometimes actors do that. It wasn't personal. Maybe he was busy at that time too. I know that. He was doing a bunch of things. So maybe he just didn't want to take on an extra thing. You know what I mean? That's entirely possible as well. But he loved the script.
Yeah.
And we just felt that, well, we had Art in mind, and we were sort of married to that in our minds. And so we thought, you know what, why don't we just basically offer the role to Lynn, because we wanted to get Lynn in there and make Lynn's role more prominent. And of course we had to figure out how that made sense. And of course it made sense being Nancy's or being Claire's sister. Because there was no mention.
And that was fun to make it kind of meta like that, right?
Yeah.
Having her play that character.
It was awesome.
And again, there's nothing to say in the original story that her character didn't have a sister. And so we chose an older, slightly older sister. So it makes sense. It's plausible. Like, why not?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So
Exactly. Steve McCoy says, hang on a sec here. Steve McCoy says, Dave and Bruce, thank you for taking some of your valuable time to give us this amazing breakdown of IMB2. I loved every minute. Well, thank you, Steve.
Nice.
I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
The Oct says, just curious, why did you guys reshoot the last minute of IMB1 to use the first minute of IMB2? Why not just reuse the exact footage, Bruce?
Yeah, so it was, we debated it back and forth. What it came down to was just a very simple choice. Greg basically said to us, you know what, guys, it would be best practice in this case to just reshoot that if we've got the time and the resources to do it. We said, yeah, we do. He said, and it will also give him an opportunity to finesse a few things. Like, for example, if you compare the end of chapter 1, the beginning of chapter 2, there's more atmosphere, like, because we used a hazer in chapter 2, whereas we didn't have that in chapter 1. So he was able to add a little bit more atmosphere, makes it a bit creepier. He was able to light it just a bit differently to make it a bit darker. And he also had to light it now with the consideration of having 2 characters in the space instead of just 1. So those factors were enough that we didn't have to, but it was mostly for those reasons and also continuity. And we just thought, yeah, that would work best. And that some of if there were any slight continuity differences between chapter 1 and chapter 2 with, say, Sam's character, for example, As a filmmaker, you can get away with that easier because it's a completely different scene, different setting, the beginning of a new film. The audience wouldn't be able to tell. And there was one slight little difference. And so, that kind of stuff, it just lets you disguise it in just a very elegant way. And then, so yeah, that's it really. Yeah, that's it. It's a fair bit, but
It's a fair, no, but it makes sense. It makes sense. It totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. All right. I think that's it. I'm just seeing here. There were some juicy ones, but I think that's it. I know. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. Looks good. Well, listen, folks, that is going to do it for Bruce and I here on this epic stream. I think what I might do, because it's such a long stream, I might go in and actually clip out certain parts and then upload them as. Well, no, I might actually, because I'll save the video and then clip out certain parts and upload them as like, here's the part where we talk about this. Here's the part where we talk about that in separate videos. So I will leave this up. I will leave the whole, what's probably a 3-hour show up. But then if people want to just kind of go to the videos and go, oh, they're talking about the eye. Here's a 15-minute video where they talk about the eye.
I got you.
Or here's a 10-minute video talk about the eye. I think I might do that just because the stream is so long. Yeah. But this was good. I hope, if you're watching live or if you're watching after the fact, that we were able to sort of, give you some insight into our creative process and what we were thinking, and maybe it'll help you appreciate what you've watched a bit more. Maybe not. Maybe you still think it's a dumpster fire. I don't know. There's some people that will. But yeah, hopefully we've been able to shed some light onto how we connected all 3 movies and why we made the creative choices that we did. And hopefully, like I said, it shows you the depths and the layers that we go to. And because then you'll be able to watch the movie again and be like, certain things that you may have glossed over or you may have not really thought about. Hopefully it will enrich your experience on a second or third time. And it's the same with chapter 1. I mean, we did all that with chapter 1 as well. So, Bruce, any last things you want to say before we skedaddle here?
Yeah, you know what? I just want to say, this entire experience, top to bottom, both chapter 1 and 2, I'm not as present online, as Dave is. I don't have a dedicated channel and everything, and so it is very humbling and very cool to connect with so many different people and to have so many different people support the work that we've been doing. I'm very grateful, very thankful.
Yeah.
And it's really been amazing. Like all of you, and even those that aren't watching that might watch this after. Again, it's just shout out to all of you, all the backers, just the people that support in the in between times and in the meantime, and all that.
In the meantime and in between time.
Yeah, it's just it's really cool. It really is very cool, and I can't tell you enough how much of just a great feeling of validation it is. It's really positive, and I just want to say thank you for that, because it means a lot. Especially as a content creator, as an artist, you're never sure what people are going to think of the work that you do. It's awesome to be able to create stuff with my best friend and just do the same thing we were doing when we were kids, right? And just keep bringing that vision alive, keeping the creative juices flowing. So I'm excited for new projects to come. I'm excited, to get the perks and stuff out to everybody. We are now going to be shifting our focus to editing the BTS that we're going to put on the Blu-ray, and starting to source a vendor for that and getting those Blu-rays printed as well. We're going to leave the campaign open for just a little bit longer. So folks because on the first chapter, we ended up getting a lot of requests to buy a Blu-ray after the film had been released, but we had closed the campaign already out of necessity. So because it went into demand when it did, we're able to keep it open. And we've done that so that if anybody really loves the movie and they're like, oh, I'd love to have a Blu-ray of this, I'd love to have that BTS. And of course, we'll put on the trailers and the teasers as well. So
director's commentary.
Yeah, exactly. So we're now going to be shifting focus to work on that and get that done. That'll take us a little bit, fair enough, because it's another kind of smaller project to edit. But we've got some of the posters ready to go, the signed posters. So anybody that picked up that perk, that's going to be one of the first ones that's going to go out. And yeah, we just got to get organized with addresses and all that good stuff. There's a lot of you, so which is awesome. So we just need some time.
A lot of you. I like that.
Yeah, I mean that in all the positive, wonderful ways. It's super cool. So we just need some time to get that organized. But the signed posters from cast and crew will be one of the first things to go out, and we've got a couple of other things ready to start shipping as well. And so I would say stay tuned to our socials over the next little bit between now and Christmas, and we'll be announcing through our socials, and I'm sure Dave will on his channel too, what we're going to ship and when. So that's kind of our next focus, because our big focus was to get the film done and get it out to everybody. And now this affords us the time that we can focus on the other bits. And then, and I'll just finish with saying thank you, Dave. Like, seriously, man, it's been awesome. And just everything you've put into the project, just everything that you do. And, and all the cast and crew that we've had work on both projects. It's been just super cool. It's really surreal. Talented group of professionals. Yeah.
I 100%. I've learned a hell of a lot. And it's surreal to be at this end of the project. And folks, I mean, again, I know there's only 63 people watching now because it's getting late, but share it around. Watch it again. I think we're over 8,000 views now. I'd love to get to 10,000 by the end of the week. Obviously, and chapter 1 saw a spike. I think we're almost at 80,000. We're almost at 80,000 views now on chapter 1, which is very cool. So obviously, with the Christmas season just around the corner, it's going to be great to see how well it does. But I echo everything that Bruce said, and I'm excited to get to those perks, the McRae Live perks, the Two Dudes perk. Two Dudes is coming back, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm excited to get on that and just finally get this going with the perks, and then move on to original stuff, which is very exciting, very exciting. So we'll see. So folks, have a great rest of your night. We really appreciate it. And if you haven't already, and you love the movie, I mean, if you don't love the movie, you can do this too, but I wouldn't encourage it, because obviously I don't want you to write anything bad. But if you love it and you have a Letterboxd account, why not put it on there? Hey, if you hate it, go ahead. I mean, what the hell? I can't control you. But share the movie around. Tell us what you think, because we're the little engine that could. We're not Terrifier. So tell us what you think. If you're on IMDb, if you're on Letterboxd, if you have your own YouTube channel, do a review. Tell us what you think, and we would love to know. We'd love to know. We really appreciate when fans and when supporters are able to express their thoughts. You know what I mean? Which is really cool. Mm-hmm. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And I meant to say I will, as well as Bruce. Oh. Talk to me, myself, and Irene.
There's two of you.
There is. I always refer to myself in the third person. Not that was the third person.
Sometimes there's three of you. It just depends.
Hey,
depends on the night.
A couple of Billies going on. There's a couple of Billies going on. But have a great rest of your Tuesday.